Yeah, Jay, I don't know if you've seen this video, but this is why some of my subscriptions are awesome. But there was actually like a town hall meeting, or I think it was like a city council meeting in
Hmm.
Ukraine, and a Ukrainian gentleman walked in there, shut the door behind him, and proceeded to throw 3 grenades in the
Oh
room
my God.
and stood there.
Yeah, I saw that.
That's
I
how
saw that video.
corrupt that place is. He's willing to blow himself up with grenades.
Calvin, do you need me to post it back up so you can see it
Where did
yourself,
he
or do
get
you
the
want me to just read it?
grenades?
No, yeah. Can you read that highlighted part? Can you bring? Can I see that again?
All right, I'll pull it up. Give me 2 seconds.
Mhm.
I don't gotta hide it because you can Google it yourself. Honestly, it was the first option when I Googled it. Give me 2 seconds. Okay, I'm gonna read that portion again. All right, this is the highlighted portion right here. According to the 2021 Global Organized Crime Index, Ukraine has one of the largest illegally trafficked arms markets in Europe, especially when it comes to small arms and ammunition. By the way, guys, the Cato Institute, because I was reading there about, is a libertarian based American think tank. Okay, no different than the critical threats think tank or the Institute for the Study of War. Multiple news outlets and government sources use think tanks for information and to verify their sources. This is from the Global Organized Crime Index. So this is in the 2021 Global Organized Crime Index, by the way. So they acknowledged this a year before the war, that Ukraine had a very bad habit of illegally trafficking arms throughout Europe. So
And then,
Calvin,
yeah,
what's go ahead, no, go ahead, go ahead.
yeah. The part the sentence that comes right after it, about three
Uh,
hundred thousand. Go ahead.
go ahead, read it.
Yeah, about 300 small arms and light weapons were reportedly lost or stolen after Russia seized land during the invasion of Crimea between 2013 and 2015. So, if it was lost or stolen, that doesn't sounds like someone was being complicit with selling off weapons that they received from whomever. If they had weapons in their possession, it said it was lost or stolen.
Yeah, but that's what it do though. Warlords then they sell the weapon and say it was stolen. Like this,
Yeah,
this is
okay,
not like something like these rebel groups and stuff. Of course, they're gonna say they didn't receive the weapons. Of course, they're gonna say that.
okay.
You know, these are not
No, this
truthful
is what the, no,
people.
no, no. This is what the report says. That's what the report says. Wait,
That's what I'm saying. Like like they can say that, but
the
people
report
who
it says right there for us, Gway, about 300,000 small uh, arms and light weapons were reported lost or stolen after Russia seized land during the invasion of Crimea between 2013 and 2015. So, to me, I can't say that that specifically is self-incriminating evidence, as I interpret it. Also, w- when you were talking about the black market before, you referenced it went to terrorist organization and also extremists, and then it was something else that was mentioned.
Uh,
Go ahead.
I
I'm
didn't
sorry.
reference that. I read that from the Reuters
Yeah, yeah,
article.
yeah, yeah. That
Reuters
part.
reported that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
from that Russian lady. None
By
of
the way,
it.
Snowman. Oh, I'm sorry. Real quick, I'm
No,
gonna let you
no.
rock out. By the
Uh-huh.
way, Snowman, you gotta show me how you do the simulcast option. I haven't figured out how to do that yet.
You already
Maybe
have it up there.
after the stream.
You already got it up there. I'm already simulcasting.
No, no, no. To show me how to do it. Like if I want to do it with someone else's channel. That's why.
Okay, I can do that
Like,
later.
but not right now. We can wait. We can wait. We can wait. But go ahead, Calvin.
Oh yeah, so yeah, I would just go to that Reuters article. It said it went to terrorists, extremists, and then one other group, but that none of those organizations was listed as going back to Russia. So, um,
Give me a second. I'll pull
uh,
it up. It lists here that they were going to. Okay, right here. The NATO military cargoes are ending up in the hands of terrorists, extremists, and criminal groups in the Middle East, Central Africa, and Southeast Asia. Zadakova added. That's what you're referring to right there.
Yeah. So, based on what I heard before, you were insinuating that these arms were going back to Russia, and like as of now, I don't see where the weapons are going back to Russia. But you have at least from there, and I wouldn't even, if to me how I would interpret this, if it's coming from Russia and they're saying that this is happening, I wouldn't necessarily believe them, because it would be in their interest for us not to give them weapons. So they could just be lying on Ukraine so that the United States would not give them weaponry. What I would probably like to also see, I don't know if this is possible, I'll do research as to see what we've actually said in terms of the weapons that we've given them, whether there's any reports out in that supports any of this black market information that is happening.
Okay, well, let me break this down real quick.
Mhm.
All right, first thing, I did not say that the weapons were going back to Russia. The report doesn't either. This is what the spokeswoman for the foreign. Let me make sure I say this right. The spokeswoman for the Russian Foreign Ministry. Okay, that's the one who reported it. All right, and she reported to Reuters that these weapons were going to the Middle East, North Africa, and Southeast Asia. Those are the hotspots she's referring to. I didn't refer to this. Okay, just to be clear. Number two, all right, if you are asking what weaponry or what resources and aid that the United States itself has sent to Ukraine, I have covered that before. I know what the sources are. I can go to the Council of Foreign Relations if you want. There's one other website, and that's the one I could think of off the top of my head, that I actually go over the amount of weapons and aid actually sent to Ukraine. The list is massive, and it's still going to grow. Okay, that's another thing. Now, as far as what the U.S. has compiled, has been trafficked out of Ukraine and sent to other locations, I'd have to do my research on that as well. All right, just to be clear about that. All right. The reason why I brought up the Cato Institute, all right, one, because it was the first option there, and two, because they already had the global crime index from a year before the war started, which means that an independent think tank already established that Ukraine had a problem with taking weapons and selling them on the black market. This was already pre-established, right?
Okay.
Well, and I'm going to let you have your rebuttal. And one more point I want to make is this, okay? I understand where you're getting at, where you're saying this is after the fact when Crimea was seized by the Russians, okay? What that doesn't mean, however, is that it was Russians who did it. Now, obviously, it doesn't necessarily verify that the Ukrainians were doing it, but the fact of the matter was that weapons were flowing out of Ukraine into the black market. Whether you want to acknowledge that it was between the time period of the Crimea being seized and right before the war, for a 7-year block, obviously, this institute, the Global Crime Index, has already established that weapons are flowing out of Ukraine, out of its borders. You can say that they're Russians. You can say that they were Ukrainians. Regardless of that, it was happening within the country. Okay, I'm not saying it's all one people or the other, but obviously this country, their society, their infrastructure is set up for blatant corruption. And if we've already established this before the war, what makes you believe that with a massive influx of weapons, resources, and aid, that it's not happening after the fact?
Only because you have a new presidency, and the events that you're speaking of reference a time frame of 2013 and 2015, which I don't contest was Ukraine was probably being one of the most corrupt nations at that point in time. I can only say that based on me observing the people, the ambassador that testified, and also that other gentleman whose name still eludes me, that they were working on corruption in Ukraine in the 2019 era when Zelensky took office. 2019. So I'm saying after that fact, after Zelensky took fact, I think I would probably need to see more evidence that this has continued, because as I understand it, and as Biden even mentioned, you're going to stop the corruption You need to fire these corrupt people, or we're not going to be sending you money. That's how they were addressing corruption. So I yield my mic.
So, do you think that since Vladimir Zelensky took over in 2019, that corruption is over now in Ukraine?
No, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say completely that. It's when you talk about the head. I don't think Zelensky is corrupt at all. I think if anyone's corrupt, we how could we how could we talk about corruption when Biden had his son working for
Steve, you're
barista?
coming through with
We're getting on them about corruption, but then we have Biden having his son work on barista, and in terms of getting rid of corruption. Two, that's on the Biden, that's on the Democrats, and then two, on a Republican, you got Trump coercing the current president to open up an investigation on the person that's running for office. So for us to get on them corruption on them but corruption, look at the corruption that we partook in terms of Ukraine. Is how
Yeah, but the problem with your logic is that Ukraine is not funding the bill in America. America is funding the bill over there.
True.
So they are paying them. So they don't need to worry about what America doing because they're not giving America money to do anything. When
True.
America is paying you to get rid of corruption in your country,
Yeah,
so-called corruption,
that's what
then you can then say, "Oh, well, you corrupt too." Well, if that's the case, then I'm not giving you a dime.
no,
You fight
I'm
your
saying that.
corruption by yourself, and I'm
I
gonna keep my money and worry about my corruption in my country.
I'm saying that. I'm the one saying that.
What I'm
I'm sure Zelensky is not saying anything. He's trying
Well,
to play nice. I'm the one saying that. Go ahead.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Your logic doesn't make sense
No.
because if you saying that, oh, because America is corrupt, so America can't talk to Zelensky about corruption, then it doesn't make sense because America is footing the bill.
No.
Somebody cannot be footing the bill to your country and you be
Right.
telling them, oh, well, you corrupt too. Well, yes, if I'm corrupt, then let me keep my money.
I was just highlighting the
Right.
hypocrisy of the whole situation. That's all.
It's not the same. It's not the same. It's completely different. You know. Yeah. I mean, they're
Well,
corrupt. It's still corruption, but it just is in a different way that you're looking at it.
Yeah.
Biden
So
was
in terms,
corrupt?
well, I guess in terms, I was trying to say, you guys are trying to pick Zelensky out to be this type of corrupt president or corrupt
But
leader.
he is though.
I
Vladimir
for
Zelensky is
one,
very
well,
corrupt.
we know that our current president did corrupt thing by having his son work on the board. We know that.
Every country on this planet is corrupt.
Okay, so
If I tell you that
we're
there's
not.
no corruption in any
We're
country,
not. Segway, you're shifting the argument.
no, what I'm saying is
No, you're
every
shifting.
country
You're
has
moving.
corruption in it.
And
We're
I'm not
talking
talking
about the
about. I'm not
level of
talking about every
corruption
country.
where it's affecting the people living in the country.
I'm not talking about every country. I'm talking about our country in Ukraine.
Okay, well,
And I'm
America is
Calvin,
corrupt.
hold on a second, if I can. Calvin, are
Zelensky
you
is
a white
corrupt
or black
also.
man?
say that again, Snowman.
I'm curious if
Yeah,
Calvin
repeat
is a
that.
white or a black man.
He's black.
I think he's a
Black?
black.
How can a
Yeah.
black man support a white supremacist nation?
Over. Well, could I make my closing remarks? Then I have
Go
to
ahead,
return
Woody.
some videotapes.
You have the mic.
Thanks for having me on, Jay. I'm gonna restream and listen to the whole show. My thing is that Putin, regardless, I understand everybody has corruption. It's really mainly, how well the country's run, how much the republic supports their president. A lot of times they praise Putin for fixing the country, for the past 30 years, and usually keeping the well-being of the nation, of the public as a whole in his mind. So I hear a lot of great remarks regarding Putin. During 2016, I think he made press conferences regarding that NATO is slowly encroaching and discussing about establishing. The NATO is establishing is talking about establishing bases closer to the territories, and he was against that, and he made that public that they had policies regarding that, peace treaties, that hey, we shouldn't do that. If Russia did that to us, we would be on high alert, right? But if US is allowed to do it, that's different. So he made that clear to the public a while ago that this is a problem. they're against it, and if us is going to keep pushing on, then there's going to be a war. And I mean, I'm just pointing out that somebody, if they're doing their due diligence regarding letting people know that this is not correct, and then the country, and me being a representative of it, I'm pronouncing it, then this calls for that war. Iran is against the base too, but they still have a us base established towards it. There's no alliance with Iran as of US as of now. So my thing is, if you're going to, if you're going to basically throw coups and fund different terror organizations and pretend that you did nothing wrong, then yeah, I mean, it's like people who want to find out. Majority public is still under this illusion that, hey, it's Ukraine need to support Ukraine, and they're noble and they're fighting the good fight or whatever, but they're not. I think we all do. We are aware of this, but most people aren't. But regardless, Putin did the right thing. I'm not saying he's the best person. Obviously, everybody's corrupt. Every nation's corrupt. The main point is that how does public see, and what is the president doing for them? But yet, thanks for having me on, Jay. Great show. Everybody have a good night and happy New Year's.
All right.
Happy New
Happy
Year,
New Year
Woody.
to you,
Happy New
Woody.
Year's, Woody.
Take it easy, Woody.
Thanks for coming through.
Happy New Year's,
But
bro.
with what
Be
he said,
safe.
I'm still
God bless.
I'm still kind of curious how they can. I mean, I'm lost on how all the lefties, be they white or black, and specifically black men that are lefties, were convinced to actually sit and support a known white supremacist nation. I don't get it. I
Joshua.
mean, especially since that's all you hear the lefties talk about is how white supremacy rules America, but yet you're going to turn around and support another white supremacist country.
Talk to me,
Yes,
Joshua.
sir,
Is
it's
that you?
me. Yes, sir, it's me.
All right. Go ahead, Calvin. Answer his question.
That's news to me that I assume the white supremacist nation is Ukraine.
Everybody
You're
knows
joking,
that.
right? You're joking.
Yeah, I'm not joking.
You have to be joking. Are you like is that a joke? Are you like
No,
messing with that?
no.
Look, I
I'm
don't know
serious.
shit about
You
geopolitics, and I
really,
know
really
that.
need to get out of the liberal thing. It is completely ravishing your brain,
So
and you
why
don't
would
have
you?
any
Why?
other
Why would? Why?
factual
Go ahead.
evidence. Like it's like this is like so common. You don't even have to listen to like uh news in America to find that out. You know that, right? Like the news from there's news media in other countries that also tell the truth. Like they're not focused on politics because they're fighting a common enemy, so they tell exactly what's going on around the world.
Was that a question for Calvin Guay?
Yeah,
What's
Go
the
ahead, Calvin.
question, Goy?
like I'm saying, like, do you listen to any other news media other than like liberal network?
I listen to. I listen to. You can't listen to just one. You have to listen to both sides to actually try to get at the truth. I
I've
don't go.
yet
I
to
don't.
hear you anything that comes from the other. You've yet to say anything that the other side says, though.
So you don't think I this demonstrated independence and thought at all?
No.
So you didn't hear me call Biden corrupt, his son corrupt. I didn't. I didn't. I didn't just.
There's all kinds of lefties that are pissed off at Biden right now.
Okay, but okay, but that doesn't mean then if I'm calling out the left as corrupt, then that doesn't really bode well for me
But
being.
what she's getting at is if you're actually if you're actually doing due diligence and trying to hear it from both sides, you would already know that Ukraine is a white supremacist nation. I mean, everybody's known that since the Second World War.
Okay,
Right.
well, I could tell you this. Like a lot of us who probably came into politics or trying to learn more about politics, especially global, foreign on the global stage, considering current people that are in the office. So yes, my foreign policy and my awareness of the global stage is very weak. You want to talk about some hip hop, some rap? I'm with you all day. But in terms of what happens politically on the global stage, um, I'm not strong there, but I do know what I've heard. I do know what I've listened to come from out of that impeachment. I've heard specifically from the ambassador that came from there and that other guy that was working intimately with the people in Ukraine to try to change the corruption. They were working based on the testimony, and if I can pull all this information for you, and we can revisit this on a later day when they talk specifically how they were working intimately with them to get rid of the corruption within their country. So I do acknowledge that it was corrupt, but I'm also saying they were working to clean up the mess as well.
Well, can I ask? Apology. We don't know
One
each
second.
other.
One second,
go
Josh.
ahead.
Before you do that,
Could you speak on
I really
Mr.
gotta,
comment?
I really have to share this real quick. I saw fun with Dirt's comment. I'm gonna look it up in a minute, but I want to show you guys this real quick.
Урок німецького язика в школі України. Понеслась. Зіхай! Зіхай!
You ain't even allowed doing that in Germany.
Урок німецького язика в школі України. Понеслась. Зіхай! Зіхай! Зіхай!
That should have put you in prison for doing that in Germany, dude.
Calvin, would you like to respond?
What's the translation to that last?
Zing Hai, Hail Hitler, World
Yeah.
War II.
Oh, okay. And when what's the timestamp on this?
When did I receive this video? Is that
Oh
what
yeah,
you're asking?
what's the timestamp for this?
Give me a second.
As in, when was it originally recorded, if you can find that?
Yeah, when it was posted, June 17th of this year.
June 17th.
And just for reference,
Okay, but
like I said, you ain't even allowed. It's against the law to mention Hitler in Germany, where Hitler was from.
so,
Actually, he was from Austria.
Well, where he
I
was.
get what you mean. I get what you mean.
Isn't Austria part of Germany though?
They annexed it, but they're two separate countries again.
Well, at the
Ever
time,
since-
Yeah, but
it was part of Germany.
At the time, at the time. Go ahead. Yeah, at the time, yes.
Doesn't matter. Snowman was spot on. Germany has huge amounts of laws about neo-Nazi shit. You can actually get arrested for even having like any of the medals and stuff. He is not like off at even all.
Right. But yet they're doing
Matter
it
of fact,
against
there's a huge black market of it. I participate. Got a lot of collection stuff. It's worth a lot of money. Sorry.
Hey, I don't blame you. I ain't mad at you either.
No, Josh. Listen. Thank you for hopping up on the panel.
I actually
I would
make
like
my
you to.
own.
I would like you to give your
I
take.
wanted-
Since you haven't had the chance to speak. Go ahead.
Well, no, I wanted to stay off the panel. For any of you guys that don't know me, I'm a foreign service officer. It's kind of the thing I do here. I didn't want to get on the panel because I wanted it demonstrated that the everyday average Joe Schmo American can smell this bullshit out a mile away. We just demonstrated it here on panel. So what exactly is the problem?
In action.
That damn, that might be that might fit. Really, at the end of the day, this is going to boil down to the taxpayers. Taxpayers have every fucking right to say, hey, I don't want my money going this direction, right? You can't really do anything about it because the everyday average taxpayer doesn't get to have any say in a budget. They elect somebody that walks their way up into the office and they decide, well, now does that person actually represent the taxpayer? The average taxpayer is going to say no because this is a constant concept. My problem specifically was with kind of like the moral claim. I'm not going to hold him down to the legality. There are no laws. State Department, we throw our weight around like left and right. This idea that we don't go up to everyday countries, not even Ukraine. Hell, I throw a dart at a map and pick one.
That's
We
what I was
utilize
saying.
leverage constantly. It's not illegal. It is death, and it's worse. It's a daily operation. It's the thing we do. It's why we have so much power. And it doesn't have to be weapons. It can be, I don't know, processing chips. It can be phones. I've seen it on all kinds of weird shit. But this is like a normal everyday thing. Now the taxpayer saying, you know what? We really shouldn't. They have every right to complain about it. It's their fucking money. So the question though is one, how do you get to say that one country, like it ought not be the case from a legal aspect? First of all, there is no law because this takes place off U.S. soil. So whose law are we enforcing? It's a moral claim. I concede that right off the bat. But then that just goes down to back to the taxpayers. They can pretty much hoop and holler and scream up and down all day long, and technically they morally have that right to do so. Now the inaction that I'll say that Black has decided, or Rock decided that he wanted to he wants to go down that path. Absolutely right. The guy up there that's deciding who gets what funding and how that's exercised, there is no inaction. It's never going to be in his favor. I mean, unless he's going to go up to the government. Go ahead.
I just want to clarify something real quick. I wanted to fact check and correct myself. That Austria actually was a separate country when Hitler was born. It was actually called Austria-Hungary. I wanted to fact check myself because I had a feeling that I was wrong about that one, because then I remember that Austria and Serbia were the ones who started World War One. So
you know what's crazy right now? The war that nobody's talking about is the genocide that's happened in Armenia. There's
Armenia and Azerbaijan.
I mean, Azerbaijan, wherever else. But these Christians are getting basically thrown to death by the Muslims.
Yeah, that's the real genocide, not the trans genocide they're trying to pretend is happening.
That's happening in Syria too, also. But the thing about the whole America going to other countries and doing stuff is that nobody can tell them anything because America funded the bill for it. So what law? The international community is not going to hold them responsible. They're not going to go to court, like other countries that go to court for things, for war crimes and stuff like that, because they fund the bill for everything. So they get to say, dictate what happened and what don't happen, you know? But a lot of the times people don't understand how, these things work, and say you come from countries that are living through those things. Then you will tend to understand how it works. But until then, they got one of the strongest military in the world. They can tell any country whatever they want to tell them. Not only do they have the military to back them, which is what most countries don't have, they also got the money. So, Vladimir is only doing what America is telling him to do. Vladimir don't care about the people in that country. Most leaders don't.
Did you guys hear about the shelling that real quick, because I do want to I can blend the last two topics together because they're both adjacent to one another. Did you guys hear about the shelling that occurred in Belgorod, which is in Russia, immediately after the rocket attacks throughout Ukraine? Did you guys hear about that?
Can you repeat that again?
The shelling attack in Belgorod. So Belgorod is a city in Russia, right? And it's on the northwest border of Ukraine. They received an attack by Ukraine, I think on Saturday. I have an article here about it by Al Jazeera. This actually that's a somewhat sizable article. Actually, I'll play a video instead. I don't know if you guys have heard about it. Did you guys hear about that? This occurred on, I want to say Saturday is when the attack happened.
I haven't heard about it.
I mean, I heard about it, but I didn't really go into details, so I don't really know what actually. I just kind of read a headline about it.
Yeah, so this is I'll read a little bit of it from Al Jazeera because the title reads: Russia says 21 people killed in Ukrainian attack on Belgorod. 21 people dead, and of course they're going to include that there were 3 children involved. 111 were injured from the Ukrainian attack. This was meant to be in direct response to the attacks by Russia throughout the entirety of Ukraine. What's interesting about this is the fact that really it was only civilians who were killed. There were no military targets involved with this. I'm going to play a video instead of going to the article. I'll bring this video up from France 24. And what I found interesting was the fact that this is a French news site, right, or a French news source, and there's no condemnation on Ukraine for the fact that they shelled into a city. Now, I know there's going to be an argument, of course, that, well, Russia started the war and they were already attacking other civilian areas. But the fact of the matter is this: there is no military target in Belgorod for them to attack. I'm going to play this video. But before I do, does anyone else want to say anything about the shelling in Belgorod?
No, you got it, Jay.
All right.
Good morning, Sharon. Well, the city of Kharkiv in the eastern part of the country has been targeted several times last night, including in the very center, in the very city center, a hotel which has been widely used by international journalists.
Sorry about that. That was the wrong video. Give me 1 second. It's actually this one. It was a BBC news source. All right, there it is.
Now, the governor of the Russian city of Volgorod says that 2 children were killed and several people injured as a result of a Ukrainian strike on the city center. The residential area is said to have been hit in the city, which is about 80 kilometers, 50 miles north of the Ukrainian city of Kharkiv. It comes a day after Friday's massive bombardment of Ukraine, the biggest of the war so far. Ukraine's President Zelensky says at least 39 people were killed in that attack, and 150 Russian missiles and drones were launched at cities across Ukraine. Bombardment has been overwhelmingly condemned at an emergency meeting of the UN Security Council. Many countries said hitting civilian infrastructure had violated the international rules of war. Let's speak now to our reporter, Zana Bezpiatchuk, who's in Kyiv for us. Can you just talk us through those attacks on Friday on such a huge scale, weren't they?
Yes. So far, we can say that there is the file number already of all missiles and drones that attacked Ukraine. Altogether, 158 drones and missiles of almost all possible times. So it's definitely the biggest number since the beginning of the Russian invasion in February 2023. All main Ukrainian cities all across the country were damaged, targeted by Russian missiles and drones.
Thanks for coming through, Rob.
And the Ukrainian president has said that altogether 120 Ukrainian cities, towns, villages were affected by this particular attack. It came in a few waves. For example, in Kyiv, it's confirmed for now that 16 people were killed, and some people still, even now, when we are talking, stay under the debris in one of the districts of the Ukrainian capital, and rescue works, they continue. There is a hope that these people can be saved. Almost 160 people altogether all across the country were injured, and also over 30 people were killed.
Then came, of course, Ukraine's retaliatory attacks.
Yes, and far in advance, before this large-scale attack on Ukraine, the Ukrainian military intelligence said it very clearly that if Russia attacks Ukraine on a large scale during the winter, with the goal to disrupt infrastructure, first of all, power stations, and if it attacks also the civilian population in the Ukrainian cities, which happened actually. So then there'll be the retaliation, there'll be the response. And for now, Ukraine relies mainly on combat drones. We got the reports from Russia that also the missiles were launched against the Russian territories overnight on the 30th of December. But that's an open question, and this information obviously has to be verified, because the part of the agreement that Ukraine has with the Western countries, that it can't use large-scale missiles supplied by the Western partners to target anything in the Russian territories. It can use them only to liberate own territories, including the Crimea.
Yeah, and Zana, there have been reports of more Russian troops moving towards the border. Have you heard anything about that? If so, what can you tell us?
I tried to verify this information from Ukrainian sources. So far, it's not confirmed. Some reports of Russian build-up on the borders, they come time from time over the war, and especially during the winter season, as we saw it at the beginning of this year, 2023, in January, February. So I think we just have to observe for now, and obviously Ukraine relies overwhelmingly on the sources in the British and US intelligence organizations, just to get the accurate assessment what is actually happening on the borders.
All right. So, first things first. What I noticed in that video when I first watched it was how they immediately went to Russia attacking Ukraine first. What people fail to realize is that they attacked energy infrastructure, which is a viable military target, because obviously you don't want the enemy to have hold of viable energy, right? And yet they acknowledge that this is a retaliatory strike against Russia. They even acknowledge that the deal that Ukraine made with the collective West was that the weapons are supposed to be used to liberate parts of Ukraine from the Russians and not to be used in Russia itself. Did you guys notice the lack of condemnation for the way that Ukraine attacked another city, by the way, right? Because we keep in mind, the media collectively, we always get on the case of Russia for attacking certain cities, for committing war crimes and killing civilians. The fact that there was zero condemnation from the BBC on Ukraine for using shells to attack Belgorod, doesn't that strike you guys as odd?
Yeah,
Nope.
but I mean, what else do you expect from the BBC, though?
Yeah.
Wait,
people.
Go ahead.
Hold up. Why are we blaming it on a single entity? Let's say it was CNN. Get the same concept, right? And everybody does this shit. Well, why are we
No.
I'm
I'm not blaming
surprised.
it. I'm not blaming it solely on the British.
Right.
I'm not blaming it solely on them. The point I'm making is that because I could have used any number of news sources.
There was no pushback at all. That's what the point
exactly.
he's trying to make. They're questioning why this happened. Is the point he's making?
Oh no! And they're not telling the whole story.
Yeah, they're not telling the whole story. They know why it happened. It happened because it was a retaliatory strike against Russia for the airstrikes on Ukraine. That's exactly why. What they're not saying is that there were no military targets in Belgorod for them to attack. Go ahead, Joshua.
Well, let me ask this: do we believe that it is the media's position to provide us both sides of any story, or like both sides of the coin? Like, are we under this assumption that must be the case or should be the case?
Anymore.
Is that the claim?
Not anymore. The media were created to fight back.
That's never been the case.
Oh, well.
Talk TV. We go all the way back to radio. Never been the case.
I would say that's the ideal.
I mean, yeah.
But it actually happens. It is the ideal.
Okay. So I'll give you an example. This is literally a trick as old as time. Take, for example, like Vietnam War. We bombed the living shit out of them, right? And Ho Chi Minh, smart motherfucker, used our own moral stances against us, right? So, the U.S. they call it the first televised war, where you could actually have soldiers with sometimes with cameras, video cameras, and record stuff. And what ended up coming back on the TV feed, to the families and sitting down watching dinner, right? They're watching these 14, 15-year-old, sometimes 13, 12, 11-year-old kids dead, mangled, just burnt to a living crisp, right? Like all of the nastiest idea, just mentally put that in your head, right? Just the nastiness of war. And now it's like women and children. Then again, they're not going to tell you that, you kill my family, I'm most likely to join a thing called the Viet Minh, which is kind of like a voluntary militia, where they give you a rifle and you go out and have some fun, get your revenge back. Like, this is just how war is. But people it's always been the case that some type of tool is being used to appeal to other people's principles. That's why we call it propaganda. It's an effective tool. The question is why do we believe that, it's not a standard thing and hasn't probably always been a standard thing?
I would say that ideally you want to have the media be as neutral as possible, but not neutral. You want them to be objective as possible, right? I do understand that media is important to propaganda, especially during times of war.
They should
I
have an
fully
unbiased
understand that.
opinion, Jay.
Excuse me?
They should have an unbiased take on it.
Yeah, they should be unbiased and they should be objective with their reporting. I agree with the ideal of what the media should do. I also understand it's used as a propaganda tool, right? The point I'm making, Joshua, and I'll let you get your take in next, Snowman. The point I'm trying to make is that there's zero accountability towards Ukraine for this. They acknowledged that the weapons are supposed to be used to only liberate Ukrainian soil, not for offensive operations into Russia itself. Have you guys heard about the Freedom of Russia Legion? Have you guys ever heard of them?
Mm-mm.
No, not at all.
No.
They're a group of dissident Russians, right? A lot of them are neo-Nazis, truth be told. They attacked into Russia. They attacked into Belgrade. So basically, they're mercs for Ukraine, right? They're Russian mercs who are fighting for Ukraine because they hate the current government. Basically, they hate Putin, and they hate the way he's running the government, right? Because they're fascists, like not Nazis. Actually, let me correct myself. These guys are actually Nazis, right? They are supplied by Ukraine, which means that Ukraine is giving them weapons from the West. So by proxy, the United States, Great Britain, France,
We're funding them.
basically are funding them by proxy, whether they acknowledge it. And here's the thing: they know that this is happening. They know that this group has attacked into Russia, and there's only one way that they're getting all modern equipment. It's because Ukraine is funding them. Ukraine is giving them the weapons, and the West is aware of this. So by proxy, they're at fault for it. And when you look at news sources like this, because let's be honest, the vast majority of news sources since the war started have been extremely anti-Russian, pro-Western, pro-Ukraine to a fault, to where they're not even acknowledging the fact that Ukraine just engaged in a war crime. Yes, war crimes happen in war, but we have to at least acknowledge when someone does it. So when the war has ended, someone gets held accountable. Go ahead, Snowman.
Well, I'm kind of, as much as I hate to do this because, I love to hate Josh. Respectfully, Josh. I have to agree with him. Do you expect the propaganda media to really do anything other than what they're doing? I mean, at this point, everything that we have that is presented to us is nothing more than rhetoric and propaganda from either side of the aisle, and it's gotten so bad that even some of what we would call alt media has been, wrapped up in it as well, to where they can't even be trusted to report in an unbiased and fair nature of what's going on. So if we're going to look at this on a geopolitical level, I would expect it to be even worse there. I mean, because they're trying to convince American people that they're their tax dollars are being justly spent. So why wouldn't they misreport and tell them propaganda to get them to back whatever it is they're trying to do?
Calvin, what do you got? You've been pretty quiet lately.
I'm sitting back and absorbing this in, so don't have a comment just yet.
I'm asking you not to get you in some kind of gotcha moment. The point is not to dogpile. I do want you to be able to give your take if you legitimately want to. If you do disagree, you have every right to disagree. and you're not going to get dogpiled. I don't want you to think that that's going to
Oh,
be the case.
that's okay. I understand.
All right, Gway, Mike goes to you. What you got?
I mean, I think at first, like for people who wasn't really into politics, as somebody who wasn't into politics, like in the US like that, I was mostly involved in mostly like things around the world and mostly international stuff. But I think the idea in the US that was given was that a media entity is supposed to be neutral, but I think we now found out that that's not the truth. They are biased. They are working for, they got some of them that work for one political group and the other work for the other political group. So neither one of them are honest and telling the truth. So, I mean, you just have to find legitimate sources that are giving you the right information and verify them, I would say, and check them out, see if they're telling the truth or not. Um, Most of the time, if you hear something that's going on, in the US when it comes to international politics or geopolitics, I tend to mostly I have friends around um, in different countries that knows what's going on. So we just kind of like brainstorm and share ideas and stuff like that. And most of the time you tend to get the right information. I just think the media are just not for the people, they are for the self. And people who listen to them and take their word as face value and don't question anything are morons. So I don't trust them at all.
Well, I don't want to detract from it. Like, so within all of these claims, there's an ought claim, there's a should claim, like it should be this or it should be that. You can't really contest that, right? Because the idea is, okay, if you're a US, say you're on the US side, right, and you're talking about your tax dollars and how it's getting spent, you are always going to have to fight for this thing. It has always been the case, even before the U.S. Wasn't just like some colony from the Brits. It's always been this way. And if you stop doing it, boy, shit gets a lot worse than this. Like, if you think this is bad, wait till you see what happens next. It's just always been this way. And so people have to have these discussions. They have to have these fights. They have to have these disagreements. And they actually, as shitty as it is, they have to divide themselves. They have to fight over it. That's kind of one of the things that might keep the government in check on spending.
Mo Freestyle. Or Moy Freestyle.
Hey, what's up?
Right.
Yeah, it's him, Jay.
Snow, you know him?
Yeah, he's from my channel.
Got you. What's going on, bro? Welcome to the panel. Welcome to my channel. You're new here. The topic right now, we are speaking on the last two topics, really, we're just combining them. Excuse me. Would be the Russian airstrikes. It was over 150 combined rockets and drones that attacked all throughout Ukraine. And we're also talking about the shelling that occurred in Belgorod over the course of this. Both of these events happened back-to-back days, actually, over the weekend. What's your take, sir?
Happy New Year, everyone, by the way. And thanks for having me on.
Of course.
Yeah, I heard about that. It's oh man, I mean, yeah, I think it's like that what was it, the Nord pipe thing? Am I pronouncing that?
Nord Stream pipeline.
Yeah, I think all this stuff, I think what you guys just said, and that's when I just hopped on, is correct. Like, I think there's an aspect where the media is always telling lies and both sides are always telling lies. But I think for a while now, a lot of these things have been, things to funnel money and to launder money and to do all these globalist agendas. They also need these proxy wars, even though obviously people get hurt in real life. But yeah, I think this is more part of these agendas, and these wars are part of it. Like, they always have to have some kind of global war going on.
All right, appreciate your take there, Moy Freestyle. Calvin, would you like to give a take, sir? I know you're saying that you're absorbing everything right now. You're just listening and taking it all in, but because right now we're more so talking on the fact of Russia bad, Ukraine good. Well, let me ask you this question real quick, Calvin. Let me ask you this:
Mhm.
Do you agree with the fact that the collective West media is pretty blind-eyed when it comes to nefarious actions taken by Ukraine on the battlefield?
Um, I can't. I can't say either way. I guess I would. I see how they're critical of Israel. Not that Israel is a topic. They can be critical of Israel when they need to be. I guess if they can be critical of Israel, I guess I would say what would prevent them from being critical of Ukraine if they were using the weaponry incorrectly.
Okay, I can see what you mean. But I think the rationale, and I'll use your example. I think the rationale though is that uh, that's a much more charged topic. What's going on in Israel and Hamas
Mhm.
versus Russia and Ukraine, because uh, for one, we're actually watching an ethnic genocide in the Middle East. We're actively watching it happen, regardless of how you want to frame it or
Mhm.
phrase it or look at it.
Mhm.
Versus we're watching a war between two near peer countries.
Mhm.
I think Russia is obviously a stronger country than Ukraine is, but they're still near peer enough that it's somewhat of a fair fight. Where we get condemnation, and I'm speaking on our media, not so much the governments, although that's a different story because the last the UN Council, actually most of them condemned Israel and wanted to have a ceasefire. But I mean more so in the media aspect.
I think it could be that we're biased towards Russia. Um, we won't stick up or defend them or
Hmm.
uh, in that regards in terms of the media. They're looked at as the bad guy, authoritarian, a thug or whatever. So for any, I guess, misdeed or done by Ukraine in terms of the war or whatever, I don't see us ever probably um condemning them or making them or casting a bad shadow on Ukraine in terms of the war. So from that vantage point, I can definitely say definitely say that there probably is some bias going on towards Ukraine in that regards.
Uh, at this point, guys, I'm going to make it an open panel. We've pretty much covered every topic that I had for tonight. I do have a few more videos, some of which are covering the attacks on both sides, but we've pretty much got the gist of it tonight. I could read the articles, but
Oh,
I think I'm going to leave those up for
can
right
I
now.
can I
Go ahead,
request for
Josh.
RC? Can I request for
Go ahead.
RC to come up? He made a statement. I think it's a fair debate to be had.
Let me see. What comment was it?
It was the one about the U.S. should mind their own business.
I agree with him.
Oh, there's
Facts.
a
I
lot of
agree with
people.
that. That's what I
Oh,
originally was going to say.
yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
If RC would be kind enough, to be fair, RC, like, dude, I'm not this like guy that just beats on people. I just want to present the opposite side because I think this is a really good. I think it's a fair discussion that, well, definitely U.S. citizens should have.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what's the other side?
Oh, well, that's the side that I work for. The idea is that we should mind our own business. This is basically like a moral claim, right? Which you can't deny the concept that everybody's got different principles, right? Like there's no beating on the little guy, right? That's kind of like an ugly thing to do. Even with our society on the street, we don't like that. We don't like the big guy just pouncing on the little guy. And outward, that's the perception. The problem is the cost. And you mentioned it with Ukraine. When Ukraine's collapsed, when the Soviet Union collapsed, You cannot imagine how much weaponry was stockpiled. And it was like literally all over Russia, but mostly in Ukraine. And you got to think about that. You're facing economical collapse, right? Is it really like you start hitting this blame game? Like, oh, well, we got to do, you got to do something with the weapons. You got to either protect them or get rid of them or something like that. The 90s was all about that shit, right?
Yep.
Can you really blame the little guy for saying, you know what, we're going to economical collapse. I need to make some money because, well, shit, I don't know if I'm going to have a job for the next 10 years kind of thing. So can you really blame them for wanting to sell weaponry? Whether it's AK, just little stuff, ammo, stuff like that. But I want to draw this mental picture. We're not talking about hundreds and thousands of guns. We're literally talking about billions. It's just an ungodly, you can't even imagine it. It wasn't one warehouse with weaponry. It was literally thousands.
Yeah, they got
it was
them
just
stockpiled in
stockpiled.
hangars and shit, don't they?
Right. So the blame game is, most people would be like, well, so from the upper staff, there's some think tank up at the top saying, well, what the hell's going to happen with all of this weaponry? And that's their job, is to think of all of the different things that can come out. Somebody came up with the idea, they're going to sell the shit, right? Like they're just naturally going to go this direction. The question is who are they going to sell it to? If you think that the U.S. was really concerned about the weaponry getting sold to Russia, that's kind of bullshit. They can kind of technically make their own if need be, right? You got to think about all of the little bitty countries that just want to throw their weight around. Believe it or not, a tiny little midget with even a sword, fuck the nukes, right? With even a sword can cause enough damage to hurt you. You look at Afghanistan. They just took a couple airplanes. Well, I'm sorry, I shouldn't blame Afghanistan. You see how much damage they did with 9/11? Boy, we voted in, oh, hell, they snuck in shit with the Patriot Act. They did shit just with that. Fuck how many 3,000 bodies they killed. Throw that off the side, just grant that. Think of just the reaction that the U.S. citizen had to just that. We got so pissed off that we were so easily manipulated. We just marched ourselves right into war.
But did you say Afghanistan? Like the people that hit the World Trade Center were from Afghanistan?
Where they thought he was at the time, I misspoke. I shouldn't blame him. I'm just say Al Qaeda. More specifically, Obama was just part, or not Obama. Bin Laden.
He came from Saudi Arabia.
He came from Saudi Arabia. He also got ejected from Saudi Arabia too, right?
Even
Like he was the black sheep in the
plane.
family.
Even the ones that flew the plane, they came from Saudi Arabia. Bush put them on the plane and sent them back. And then went and bombed Afghanistan and other places. He didn't go to Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, lots of people come from a lot of places. It would be like Timothy McVeigh. He was an American.
Yo, but I heard that.
Like, I mean, there's always, I misspoke. I shouldn't have put a national, I should have just said Al Qaeda, right? The point is that there's always a threat. Even the little guy can do a lot of damage with just a pinprick. He doesn't need a nuke, just a little pinprick. So there is an offset to the little guy is just as much, well, not just as much, but he is a viable threat just as much as the big guy. I'd probably lay claim that the big guy has a lot more to lose and is less likely to fight because you got an economy to protect. I'd like to lay that claim, but look at Russia. Russia's just tearing their economy up, going after Ukraine. Is what it is.
Did you say Russia's tearing up their economy fighting Ukraine?
Yeah, Russia's economy is it's hitting hard. To be fair, it'll make a good comeback, but right this moment, or at least for the last couple of years, it's just hurting real bad.
You do know that Russia.
That's not true. Russia got
before
oil.
the war. Yeah, you do realize.
Yeah, they have.
Before the war was the 11th largest economy in the world. They are now the 8th largest economy in the world by GDP.
Yeah.
Right? And that's
right.
well into the war.
But that is think of this at the concept. When I say economy, I literally mean across the board as people, right? Just because there are some group of people at the top, the same you would claim like the Americans have elites, so do the Russians, right?
Right.
It's really that's really what they're measuring across. And that's why, because there's such a gap between, say, like the upper class and the lower class. I mean, there's a huge gap in between. That's why you see a lot of the protests and bullshit going on at street level. Like that was a really nasty thing that was going on, is what it is. And that's what causes the dysfunction. They'll rebound from it. How long it's going to take, I have no clue, but I would assume that it would. Again, Russia's got some resources. They can make up for it. It's just...
That's a really good point. I think that's what I was saying before, though, is that ushering all this since really the 9/11, all this has been ushering this kind of corporatocracy, the oligarchs, this kind of super class that doesn't get hurt and makes all the money from these, quote unquote wars. The Bush family and supposedly the Saudis were involved during that. And then also I heard during those times that a lot of people, their kids that were in boarding school, because I was in boarding school, supposedly their kids got found out earlier, and they were let out of the country before it happened.
All right. I don't want to oh God, I'm not trying to put the blame on like any specific group, right? I'm just trying to open up the idea that it's the concept of a big country versus a little country. You can't really look at a big country. You can't look at it like in a moral stance of a big country is just, he's big, therefore he should protect the little country. The little country is still a threat. An example would be Estonia for us. Estonia is a small country, borders Russia, and just underneath of the Baltic Sea, like that. They're just this little tiny thing. I think they were like a 3 million population, and they went down to 1.3 million population, something like that. Now, from the tech world, one of the worlds I deal in, these fuckers are kicking the shit out of, even me specifically. I have a tech firm. They're just kicking the crap out of us. They're technically a viable economical threat.
Yeah, but you don't think
But why? Why are they a threat?
Competition. Here's an example. One of the things that the United States exports the most is going to be technology. An example would be we also even control it to a degree. An example, if you're a U.S. citizen and you're dealing with encryption, I think I would say anything just above something called IonQ, which is commercial grade. You get just one step above that. You as a U.S. citizen cannot go to a foreign country and just sell your software willy-nilly. It's got encryption, so that's problem number one. Problem number two is you now have to ask specifically the State Department and Treasury Department for permission to sell that product in another country.
Yeah, but
Go ahead.
I was going to say, wouldn't something like that be more, once again, the corporations and basically the bigger companies it would affect? But when it comes to even the whole Ukraine thing, I mean,
well, so now here's the problem:
a money laundering.
Not exactly.
They're being used as a pawn for something greater.
Not exactly. Well, not exactly. See, that's the problem. You got the corporate world; they have one specific interest, and let's just boil it down to money for them. Now, why do you think the U.S. would have an interest to it too? Why would the U.S. not want enemy countries to have access to any type of what they would deem as advanced technology?
But I don't understand. Why would you not want another country to advance in technology?
Because then they become a threat to you as a nation.
Bingo. So there's two different interests at play. They just have shared interests. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. This is why you get a buddy up concept between the corporate world and say a government entity.
I get that. That makes total sense.
Go to the country. Go ahead,
Professor Mex. Welcome to the show.
I'm saying that makes sense.
Give me 1 second, Professor Mex. Welcome to the show. Trust me, I had the banner up before you. No. I can see that you're cammed up. Just letting you know. No one else can see you. Snowman, you know Professor Mex?
Yeah, he's from my channel too. He's a good
Okay,
guy.
cool. All right. You can cam down if you want, Professor Mex.
Okay. What
All
I'm
right.
saying is that these countries, these small countries, are being used as pawns. And then when it comes to when you say what's the U.S. Involvement, their involvement is we have U.S. corporations and big companies that are involved over there that are going to be rebuilding it when these wars are over. That always happens, right? You got contractors
Investment.
and all types of
Yeah.
American corporations go over there and rebuild it. It happened with Iraq. It always happens. That's one, and that's part of the military industrial complex. And then you got in general, like I've heard, it's just a huge money laundering and trafficking operation. And that's not the first time it's happened with these so-called small countries, third world countries.
I agree with you. Now the question is we're going to have that discussion. It's a really good discussion. It's a discussion that ought be had, and I guarantee you nobody's going to. You could probably come up with your wildest wet dream fantasy of a conspiracy theory, and you're probably not going to be very wrong.
I mean, I'm saying things that have been out there, and I'm not talking about conspiracy theory. I'm saying things that these companies have themselves talked about, in the sense of what their investments are over there. And look, also you got the other thing, which is the pipeline, right? And then that's why I mentioned that whole Nords thing. But like since '08, really, like all these big companies have been involved in these different so-called, let's call them money laundering, black ops, right? So these things, like, you know, I heard stories of soldiers who went in and they was coming out with artifacts and different things when they go through these different Middle Eastern countries. What this must have been the '90s, my time. What was it, Desert Storm? So, like at the end of the day, they always got other reasons than just the so-called war. Tell
I
them
think
what.
Can't disagree.
the war is
Tell
just a
the reason.
cover up
Yeah,
for
the
whatever
war is
they're
just a
trying.
cover up.
Yeah, the war is just a cover up for whatever they want out of that country and they want to get out of that country. So they give these rebel groups ammunition. Forget that the people are going to be killing innocent people, but
Mm-hmm.
because all they care about is what they want out of that country, so innocent people dying is no use to them. They
Bro,
can go ahead and
they from both sides, and also that show Reacher first season, and another show that was on Amazon Prime. Bro, they both talked about this stuff before it happened. That Nord Stream pipeline stuff, that was on one of these spy shows. Because I be watching all this fucking Grisham shit, you know, whatever these spy things. And bro, they be predicting this stuff on this stuff, man. It's crazy out here.
So can I ask, is it the problem? Because I'm just trying to want to make sure I get the contention clarified. Is it the concept of applying the moral stance of what conditions you would apply a policy or a prescription versus, say, like money or
I don't think there
that
is a
kind of
moral
concept?
stance. I think
there's
they
no
use
moral
the moral. They use the moral stance, like all this Ukraine virtual signaling. They use that as a cover, but it's always the money or some other
Thank you.
sideline
Well,
thing that
no,
makes money.
I guess what I'm asking is you as a person, right? And you're looking at this
Oh, me
system
as
from
a
the
person,
outside.
as a taxpayer, all I care about is that, yo, I'm an American citizen. I got an American passport. I don't give a fuck. At the end of the day, I'm even technically, let's say, from another country, right? I'm Dominican, but still, I'm American. I have an American passport, and I live here, and my blood, sweat, and tears goes into this country and the state I live in. So it's disrespectful when all these resources and money, and then we got inflation and all these things every year, and billions of dollars are going to these motherfuckers on the other side of the world. Fuck that shit. We got our own problems. We got
But
Flint.
Josh,
We got a whole bunch of shit.
the money is not going to these people. That's the problem that the politicians that are in these countries that are on the top, the corrupt leaders, They are benefiting, and the money is coming back to the corrupt leaders that are in America. So the people actually in those countries are not benefiting from whatever the leaders in those countries or those corrupt leaders in those countries or whatever dealings that they have, let's say with the US or any other Western countries. So they don't care about anything else.
Exactly.
But
And
for
that's even worse.
them, they don't care about them. So it's not they're not doing it because they want to help the poor guy down there. No, they're not. They're doing it because the money recircle and come back to them. That's what you see in America with a number of 300 plus million people. Only 1% is rich and super rich, in a whole country full of this many people. So that tells you these people are not doing it because they care about me and you. They're doing it for their own pockets.
Exactly.
That's
And
it.
the politicians been corrupt in all third world countries. Everybody knows it. You go to where I'm
Corrupt as
originally from,
hell. Most of
and
them, oh my
yeah,
God.
only in the United States people are just finding that out. And oh my gosh, our politicians are corrupt. Hello, if you're an immigrant, and I mean a real immigrant, like you did it the right way, and you're coming from another country, or you come from, I don't know, communism or some other thing that's happening that's fucked up, you notice the totalitarianism and the fucked up shit right away.
Yes, that's true.
You
So
notice it.
they just tell the idea of, oh, we're fighting for the little guy, but they're not, because it's like it just proves that you don't have to be in office for 30 years, 40 years for you to get things changed. They've been saying the same thing over and over before I even came to the US in 2000. They've been telling the same story. Oh, we're fighting for the little guy. Oh, we're doing this, we're doing that. I came to the US. It's the same thing they're selling until now. Nothing have changed. The politicians are still corrupt. They're still in power for themselves. They work for the special interest groups. They don't care about the American people and people who are paying taxes in this country. They just
Exactly.
care about filling their pockets and lying and acting like they're supporting these countries, these little countries over there when they're not. The
Yeah.
money is coming back to them. It's not going to these countries at
And
all.
that's also
The
what people
corrupt
gotta
leaders
understand.
only.
These politicians that be virtual signaling, whatever it is, most of these people, they don't give a fuck about that shit either. Trans or any one of these things, they be throwing up these flags. They just know it's gonna get them votes and it's gonna make them money. But when the push comes to shove, and let's say some shit hits the fan with tomorrow, I don't know, fucking asteroids or aliens or some bullshit, right? Those people wouldn't help nobody. They don't help nobody in general. I don't know why
No.
people be dick riding these politicians.
I have a question.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, good. Well, before I say that, Mui Freestyle, your voice has been throwing me off. This is how I'm like, your voice sounds so familiar. I'm like, who is this person? And I finally realized this is totally off topic, and I'll bring it back on top. You sound like Marcus Rogers. Does anyone know who Marcus Rogers is? Have you gotten that before?
Enlighten us.
Marcus Rogers is a preacher. Preacher man. Google him. Listen to his voice. Angry man. Listen to Marcus Rogers. He sounds just like him. Muy freestyle. So it's funny when I hear you curse or whatever, because Marcus Rogers is a preacher. But
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, man, and I don't mean to curse
oh, no,
and
you're
be
fine.
vulgar.
You're
I just
fine.
know my parents. Look, we had a dictator from 30 to 61 in my country in DR, and my parents were the silent generation. And I grew up my whole life hearing about the bullshit of totalitarianism and communism. And then I come here, and in my adult life, you got this Gen Z and all these people that want to be fake ass champagne communism and all this bullshit. I'm like, man, this shit gets me heated. Some fuck shit.
Yeah, because they haven't lived through it.
Trujillo,
I
that's what
think
you're
that's
talking
the
about.
problem. They haven't lived through it and they don't understand it. It's like they're selling them something sweet, but the actual wrapping or whatever it is sweet, but the inside of it is dark and bitter. So they don't actually know what that feels like until you live through it or go through these war-torn countries and actually experience these things and know what a real dictator. That's when you see people in America be like, "Oh, Trump is dictator." No, that he's not. I mean, I live
Exactly.
on a real dictatorial regime. If
So,
you want to see a dictator, I can show you a lot of them, and he's not one of them at all. It's just a thing, but people buy into these things and they actually believe it, and they're actually fighting with their family members and not speaking to them because somebody's on the right and you on the left. Are you crazy? It's
so
it's
I
it's,
pulled up.
it's just stupid.
Oh, go ahead, Gwen. Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying it's just stupid. Like you're fighting your family member because they chose to vote for Trump. You're not speaking to them because the other person chose to vote for Biden. You're not speaking to them, and you're fighting each other for what? For these useless politicians who don't give a damn
Yo,
about you and me.
Right,
yo,
and none of them give a fuck about us, and they all hanging out. That's what people don't understand.
Exactly.
They all hanging out together on their free time.
All
The
these people
fuck?
are bought and paid for. They are nothing but lip services. That's it. They don't speak on behalf of you and me. They don't really care what happening. You know, the infrastructure in America is not developed. They don't care about that. They just rather send money overseas because they know those money come right back to them in their pocket.
And it's
was
a slap in the face. It's a slap in the face. Every American should be up in arms over this shit, and instead, people are talking about football, whatever the fuck. And it's like, no, man, this shit. You know what? America is the land of bread and circus, and it's frustrating. If you're a person that cares, it's extremely frustrating because the walls are literally decaying around us, and like the infrastructure, like she said, is it's been like that for a minute now, to be honest. But it's really bad. You got bridges and other things in major cities that at any moment could collapse. That should be something that every person should be frustrated about. When you got taxes, we paying what, like 30% of what we make on fucking taxes? Fuck that shit.
So I want to bring this up because I believe it was Josh who asked earlier about stockpiles. Someone on panel asked earlier about weapon stockpiles after the Soviet Union collapsed. Um, the closest I could find, well, I was able to find a Reddit thread that did bring up Soviet stockpiles of tanks, but it came from Reddit. I wanted a more reputable source, and what I found was something involving small arms. What they call it is SLAW, small arms, or SAW. Well, let me reread it. Hold on a second. It's called SAL-W, small arms and light weapons. That's what it stands for. And this is an excerpt from a website called jstore.org. They are a digital library, and they're part of a nonprofit organization. I really want to read this real quick because it does go back into the point previously involving weapons that were seized from the Soviet Union, and subsequently, it does relate back to Ukraine. But we'll get back to the open panel in a minute. I just wanted to read this part. Due to the general weakening of government control and the decentralization of power in Russia in the first half of the 1990s, small arms from army units and arsenals made their way into the hands of the civilian general population or local unofficial armed formations after the withdrawal of federal troops. For example, after the withdrawal of Russian armed forces from Chechnya at the start of the 1990s, the Dudayev separatist regime obtained 42,000 pieces of small arms from army depots, including 28,000 Kalashnikovs assault rifles, 200,000 hand grenades, and over 13.5 million rounds of various types of ammunition. The separatists also captured at least 15,000 further pieces of small arms when they disarmed the KGB and police of the Chechen Ingush Autonomous Republic. The events turned Chechnya into the main source of illegal small arms in Russia. All right, that's that part. Now, come down here, we have what's called Transnistria. That's basically Transnistria, that area of the Soviet Union. Transnistria is also part of Moldova, for those of you who don't know. Was another case when stockpile security broke down. In 1991, its population seized 21,800 units of small arms and large quantities of ammunition from the arsenals of Russian troops in the region. Later, the weapons were used in the armed conflict between Moldova and Transnistria, also known as Transnistria. However, by the mid-1990s, a significant share of the stolen arms were returned to the depots of the Russian forces in the region. However, when General Alexander Lebed was removed as commander of the Russian forces there, retrieval efforts ceased. In October 2002, it was reported that 50,000 small arms remained at the Russian depot of the Kolbasnaya in Transnistria. These weapons were scheduled to be retransferred to Russia or destroyed on the spot. All right, so I just wanted to bring that point up because it shows you here that there were thousands upon thousands of rifles and millions of rounds of ammunition that were disseminated throughout that part of the world after the collapse of the Soviet Union. That's all. I think it was Josh who brought that up. I just wanted to read that part and do some due diligence. But go ahead, guys.
Well, I wanted to say this. As I listen to you guys, and this is not to discredit the conversation being had between Gway and Mr. Freestyle. I guess what largely concerns me is when you speak in generalities in terms of this money grab that you're talking about or laundering scheme. I never can get. What I look for is specific names, people's group, organizations that I can actually look up. If you're saying that there's a specific group that is coming in to rebuild these infrastructure and collecting this money, I guess are we able to at least identify these groups of people in some regards so that I guess that we can, I guess, put the pieces together to see who's actually at fault and start to hold people accountable and bring them out?
They're invisible.
Yes, but it's not going to. The answer is yes. Hell, I could list off about a half a dozen just within Ukraine. It's just not going to do you any bit of good, because basically what you're doing is you're basically saying, hey, this corporation, evil corporation, but the next one behind it is going to be the same thing. It's just going to be another different corporation that's going to do the same thing.
But
that's it. It's just how business operates. They're doing it from a business perspective. But now you're trying to apply a moral stance to it. Capitalism doesn't have a moral stance to it.
No, I guess my concern is to establish what you're saying, not per se to. Go ahead.
Like the concept of a business, a company, say a construction company going in and building bridges or something like that.
No, I'm trying to identify the nefarious characters in this whole grand scheme of things. You're
not going to be able to.
What?
Depends on who you want to blame, right? It's not like there's not enough equal blame. Even if it's the case, a machine, multiple moving parts, you blame the carburetor, right? But there's something else, like say the spark plugs or something, that are doing the same nefarious stuff, right? All you're doing is just picking out one person from a lineup where they're all just doing the same bullshit.
Okay. I guess
the entire the point is the entire engine is the evil thing.
Quay, you want to say something?
No, Jack was talking.
No, I would just say to that, I hear you, but being a skeptic, for me, I move in, facts, tangible facts, evidence, and things of that nature. So for if you want me to believe you or follow along what you're saying, I can definitely see the logic that what you're getting at. But then again, I would definitely need to have some facts. I would need to point to someone. I would need to see some evidence of this, or what you're saying, in order for me to actually fully invest myself into what you're saying. Otherwise, that's just the type of consumer I am.
But respectfully, I'd have to push back on that, because so far, when the discussions that you and I have had, you're basing your opinion solely off of a media outlet. There's no evidence based on anything that you've given your opinion on as far as our discussions.
And that's Snowman speaking?
Yeah.
Correct.
Give me one example of Snowman.
I don't want to derail the conversation and take it a whole nother route, but just the conversation you and I were having about the impeachment trial and Trump. Nothing you gave me was a fact. Everything I gave you was a fact where I could pull up a source and show it to you.
Okay. So in terms of our conversation, I've kind of put it out there that we can definitely resolve our difference in a fact-based conversation when we both come to the table with the information. I've made certain statements, and you've made certain statements. None of us has actually brought up a piece of paperwork or article to support ourselves. So it's basically my word against your words. At this point in time, we're both unsupported in our claims.
I agree with that. The difference of what I'm saying is I'm reporting what I watched on C-SPAN when I was actually watching the impeachment, and what you gave me were CNN and MSNBC talking points down to the letter.
No, I think what talking points are you talking about? I was reporting on to you what I saw from the impeachment trial, largely.
Okay.
So,
Well, I mean, what I would say to that is like these are organizations that are involved in this. So if you're part of the organization and this corruption is going on, you can pick just one person. So if for example, you know, BlackRock is one of them, Vanguard is one of them. So you cannot pick just one person out of Vanguard. You cannot pick one person out of BlackRock. You know, these people are working together, and them working together meaning it's like a circle that just keep going round and round because they're connected.
And Professor, if you're wanting to hop in, you're just going to have to hop in because nobody's going to invite you, sir.
They're also connected, you know. So like it's very hard for you to just say, okay, I'm gonna pick just one person. Is the entire organization that is doing it.
To your statement.
All right, hold on. Because actually that's on me. I should have made sure to get you in there, Professor. I've been doing it for everybody all night. Apologies for that.
I thought you were just being racist to us white people.
No. Listen, bro. Better stop that shit. By all means, sir.
That was a fun little
Please,
jab.
Don't let him get away with that. We all came up here because we wanted to, J-rillo, we really wanted to know, how did you get over the wall and get in the first place?
I dug under the wall, sir. I dug.
Yes.
Damn it.
Illegal
He didn't even, don't lie, you didn't even bug. You used already established cartel tunnels that were already there.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did, sir. You know how I did. I money laundered that shit. Professor Max,
I'm not mad at
you've been
you.
listening you've been very quiet, very patient. Apologies for not getting you in here sooner, sir.
No, it's fine. This is a new group. You guys don't know me. I'm on Snowman's team on the other side. I live down in Mexico, and I'm with a group called the Veterans Without Borders. Now, I just have a question for all of you in this panel, so that so I can frame this. How many people here are born in a foreign country?
I am.
Okay, so there's one. Anyone else? Anyone else?
When Freestyle was up here, he was too.
Yeah, he left.
I know Freestyle was born in the Dominican. So, and if he lived there for any period of time, he would be able to tell you firsthand of the fuckery that goes on. Now, I'm not going to over-explain this. I'm not an expert in politics. I'm from Yugoslavia originally, which if you guys don't know, we were a communist country. I went to bed hungry at night, every fucking night until I was 8 years old, and I went to Germany. So what is happening right now in the United States is exactly what happened to us in 1999. Exactly the same. So what they did was, when I say they, we don't know who they is. We don't even know who they is we are referring to. I'm a veteran, so I was able to see from a bird's eye view of how money is wasted in the military. We had things called fraud, waste, and abuse in the 90s, and there was all this like quality stuff that was going on, and it was all a setup. What it does is it gives the public an image. It says, okay, we're no longer buying $600 hammers. We're no longer buying $40,000 coffee makers for the forward deployed. And that's how we're going to set our budgets. What they do is, let's say I get $1 million to do nothing but buy avionics, to upgrade all of the electronics in the older jets that we still use. I'll take that million, the million that was given to me, which is an investor's money. It's not, when we think about the tax base of the U.S. military, when you cross the border outside, if you go to the Bahamas, you don't pay taxes. You don't pay U.S. taxes on incomes. No federal income taxes, no income taxes, period. Now, I was an assistant to a 4-star general for the Air Force who was the chief of command, okay? chief of staff of the Air Force, who was also the chief of a bunch of bullshit. But he told me things drunk that now I can say it because I'm long time been out. But everything's been a setup. Every single thing you guys are trying to logically put together and figure out who's right or wrong, it's all wrong. Everything that you and I are talking about right now is a setup that has been orchestrated to put puppets and patsies in place to make them look stupid and make them look corrupt in order for them to go down. That's how this thing happened. What happened in 1999 is that they accused my country of executing Muslims. Now, I was a kid, but I was still, I was still aware of what's going on. So 1999, I'm in Germany, and my grandparents are still back in Yugoslavia. That's when they bombed the capital and killed, thousands of people. And this was another proxy war where someone had took a chunk of money, put it into, let's say, BlackRock, which is a holdings company. Just so you guys know, BlackRock and all the big ones like that are just holding companies that do banking for smaller businesses in order for them to keep from collapsing. Okay, that's why they have holdings companies. So what they did was they positioned themselves in a way. Now we could go into the 13 bloodlines and all that stuff. Hell, if you want to know who the next president is, just DNA test everybody. And if they're related to the last president who was connected to the other, 40 something, then you know who this is all a setup. So how is it possible that every single president up to Donald Trump is related? How is it possible? These people are selected. None of our votes fucking count. I'm from a communist country that openly admits to being corrupt. And now they're turning the thing around. Now they're like, let's not be like the United States. Let's go back to our Serbian Orthodox church and keep our families tight because they're stupid. And here we are, a little ass country with little or no money. And yet we're more prosperous because we refuse to believe lies. And all these things that have to do with sex and with, it's just the end of every civilization has the same collapse. It's first they get rid of God, and then they let all the women run wild. And after that, it doesn't matter anymore because we don't care about the women anymore because they're all whores and prostitutes. So why should we defend them? So that's how all of the collapse of history has happened. Now, what you guys may or may not know is there was a civilization that wasn't that long ago that experienced a cataclysm as well in the United States, in Europe, in Asia, in India. That basically all these monolithic buildings that you guys live, literally walking above another civilization. If you're from New York, Chicago, every single part, Utah, California, San Francisco has buildings that are thousands of years old. And every single time there's been an earthquake or a fire or a war to wipe them all out. The young man mentioned earlier about the Anunnaki in Iraq. The reason why we went into that part of Iraq and that part of Afghanistan was, yes, to one, collect gold, and two, collect artifacts to make them go away. See, the Smithsonian tried to destroy my house. If you guys don't know, I live in a castle here in Mexico. And about 100 years ago, it was abandoned. So right around 1940 or so, the Smithsonian Institute started going around to places like mine and blowing them up, essentially collapsing them. I have tunnels underneath my house that go all the way across town and to the bridge and in and out of my castle. And they're all sealed up and blown up and imploded. Now, it doesn't make any sense to me, but apparently these antiquities are something that speak to the reason why we have wars now at all, and it has been over petroleum and the petrodollar. So if there was something that's hidden from our sight, in our view, that says the reason why all these old buildings don't have black marks on the ceiling from torches and stuff like that is because they use things like radium. Okay, I'm just giving you an example. Radium was something in the U.S. till the 50s. Basically, those stickers you stick on the ceiling, the glow-in-the-dark stickers, that sort of basic 1960s technology. Yeah. Okay, so we're talking about something that's being hidden in plain sight, that if we knew the solution to it, I have a theory about bells, because all of the bells, the big giant bells, the church bells, were taken out of every single building in the United States. And it's those buildings that have the arcs, the archways, and have the dome ceilings. All of them had bells before, but they were all taken out. One, it gives you a date, a real date. So a lot of times they'll print the date and the year it was made on the side of the bell around the ring. And so what I found out last month is that China had something to the tune of 20,000 bells that were from these monolithic buildings that were buried. So as you can see, there is an incentive for the people who have invested money into arms to perpetuate this even further, because we're in a fight for oil. So therefore, that's justified to buy arms. And see, they don't just buy arms for one side; they buy arms for both sides. So they allow this, and you don't know about it. You don't know about what Russia has gotten from BlackRock. You don't know what Israel has gotten from BlackRock or Hamas has gotten from Soros. You don't know. There are all these things that we don't see, but I'm going to tell you, just flatten it out right quick. Don't even question it anymore. We know two things. Politicians do two things really well, and that's lie and steal. They don't do any fucking thing else. Governments don't produce anything. Think about it. Governments don't produce anything. We paid for that shit in Ukraine. You and I, not those fuck sticks. What they did was they perpetuated the setup. They gave a cause. And here we are repeating the 1999 bombing of Yugoslavia all over again. I want to show you guys this. It's a little service dog I got about 2 weeks ago. What do you guys think? Little cutie pie. I get service dogs for veterans that come to live overseas, so this happens to be one of them. So anyway, that's all I have to share. If you guys have any questions, I mean,
basically, it sounds like what you were saying is they act like Halliburton does, funding both sides.
That is exactly what Halliburton is part of this whole scheme. They just happen to be the most visible. And the vice president, when I joined the military, President Bush was the president. And Dick Cheney was the vice president, and he was prior the president of Halliburton. And the setup was, okay, let's look for a fucking reason to bomb Yugoslavia. Let's look for a scapegoat, and let's look for an excuse, and let's look for a public outcry. And we'll work that in reverse to give people an excuse to say, oh, those fucking Serbians, they're racist. They hate Muslims. That ain't true. That's not true at all. We have Turks, we have Arabs, we have Syrians, and they're just neighbors. So it's not like we have this thing that they invented. Okay, and they did the same thing in Iraq in 1991, and that is the Kurds wanted to live in Kurdistan, and Saddam Hussein slaughtered them. So there's all these every single thing was a setup. In fact, Saddam Hussein, when he was being executed prior to his execution, he was on trial, and he's like, brothers, listen to me. They have set us all up. This was the whole reason. They lied. They put us. They lied about the war, and now look at us now. And I'm not. Listen, I was in the fucking Iraqi war twice, so I have no love for anybody on any side. And if I can sit here and I'm not gonna bullshit you guys, I saw things that were bought and paid for with taxpayer money that we didn't fucking need, and then we go and abandon the shit. Okay, that didn't make any sense to me at all, and I'm not glad. I'm glad I'm out, but I'm not glad that my leadership ability is not still there, because we wouldn't be having this fucking.
Does anybody want to respond to what Professor Mex just went into? I mean, that was a lot, Professor Mex, not going to lie. But it sounds like you have a lot of insight with your military background. And I had no idea that you lived in a castle. That's actually pretty damn cool.
Yeah, it is. When he told me, I was like, that's dope.
That is dope.
In Mexico?
Yeah, in Mexico.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
New Mexico? Or?
No,
Mexico. Go ahead, Calvin.
No, yeah, I was trying to follow where he was at, because he was saying that we pay taxes. So I assume he was talking. He was speaking as if he was a resident of the United States. So that's why I found a little bit confusing. But go ahead.
I just happen to live in Mexico. I can live there. I just happen to be here now.
Did you live in the U.S. before?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
he was actually enlisted in the U.S. military.
In the U.S. Army. Oh, okay.
Yeah, so those are and what they're doing right now with This is no different. Just like when Yugoslavia went down, everybody went to Germany and joined the military. Exact same thing. I joined the U.S. Air Force because they said you can. And if you sign here, and 7 years, you'll have an American passport. So
Thank you for your service, by the way.
Yeah, thanks.
there are not too many of us left around anymore. 90s era veterans. When we came in, they overtrained us. We're overqualified to do fucking so much shit because we're going to war. And now I see that investment has run its course as people made their money. We pay taxes. U.S. taxpayer dollars pay for every bullet, for every piece of equipment. Now, you and I would ask ourselves when someone something mentioned small arms. AK-47s are considered small arms. If I'm not, I believe so because it has to be a certain caliber. That's considered small arms. Long guns, 6mm, whatever. Those are all small arms. And when somebody invests into both sides of the party, it doesn't matter who wins because you've already sold the inventory. You understand? Understand that part? They've sold the inventory already, so it doesn't matter who wins or loses. Now I'm gonna pose a question to all of you because everybody has a price. Every single person on this panel has a threshold where they're willing to sell themselves for money. And what we have are dumbass lines of politicians with people on their sides. I was once a lobbyist for the state of Florida. So the Florida Wildlife Federation sent me, I'm a forestry teacher, so I teach forestry and firefighting. And they invited me to come. I see full-on corruption. The stupid shit that there's so much money blown on stuff that you would never understand why they would do research in X, Y, Z. And now I understand why. They were able to do so well in washing out the tax base. So now I've invested my $45 million into on this side and hand grenades on that side. I've got $45 million. It doesn't matter who the fuck wins. What matters is that get delivered. Because once they get delivered, now I have made money on my investment, and I don't pay taxes on that investment. Because it don't matter who the fuck wins. It matters is who buys the fucking guns.
So who's buying the guns in that instance?
Both governments are working in cahoots.
So
that the private contractors selling arms to both sides, period. And they're all under BlackRock, they're all under Vanguard, they're all connected. Every bit of it's connected. They said holdings companies. Me and Snowman opened up a small corporation, a small charity, for example. And we're the white hats, or the blue hats and the hard hats. And we go to like Chile, for example. And we come there as the do-gooders. Motherfucking do-gooders, anybody that's involved with charities overseas has George Soros's money in their pockets. Okay, I'm in a charity right now. I'm sitting here at Firefighters Without Borders. We don't get money, period, from the government. And if I took the money from the government, I'd have two guys show up one day with black ties on saying, this is how you're going to have to run things. And we're going to offer you this. The answer is, you sell money, you sell your soul to people with black suits who say,
Working out.
Yeah, we're losing you on the audio side. Can you maybe reset your mic?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're losing your audio a bit there. Calvin, did you have a question for him, by the way?
I did have a question or a statement to the panel. He said that in terms of the presidency, you can identify the next presidency in line based on their DNA. He's gone. Okay, I guess I'm waiting for him to come back. I don't know if someone else agrees with him. Go ahead.
No, he ain't lying. You can actually, there's actual proof. There's someone there's people that went through and done the lineage in every single president from George Washington all the way up to Obama. Trump was the only president that wasn't related to all of them.
Okay, that's what I was going to add. So
Trump. Who was Obama related to?
What?
Who was Obama related to?
Obama's he's part of the same bloodline. They're all he's like the second. He's actually related to George Bush. To be honest with you.
I love people.
So In terms
Bush is like I think 4th or 5th cousin.
I thought it was related to the Queen. I heard or something like that. But anyway, really, so you're saying that Trump is not related? It's not a part of the bloodline at all.
Correct.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so if that's the case, then doesn't that kind of go against the running theme that the powers that be are in control and they dictate who's the president when we were able to interrupt the line of ascension with the president that was not a part of the bloodline?
Yeah, but that's because they didn't think Trump was going to win.
But no. Okay, but the fact that they didn't think
the fact that Trump isn't part of their bloodline would explain why they attacked him as hard as he did. I mean, if you look at the way he was attacked by media, by social media, by everybody all together. I mean, he's the first president that was literally openly attacked the entire 4 years of his presidency the way he was. It was like an everyday thing.
Well, there's an argument to be made that the attack on Trump was largely based on things that came out of his mouth and actions that he took.
Most of the things that came out of his mouth that they attacked him for were things that he did before his presidency.
True. So I will agree. They definitely, the attack on Trump was more than unusual. But I'm just saying we would have to agree he didn't do himself any favors by some of the stuff that came out of his mouth and some of the actions he took when he was a president. He was a very non-presidential candidate. For example, let's look at what he said.
Well, the reason why he resonated with the American people is simply because he spoke in a candid way that the American people would relate to. He didn't sit and talk what I guess the way you would put it is the corporate way. You know, he spoke in a manner that the common man could understand what it was he was saying. That much.
And because that's how they talk too. That's how common people talk, the way Trump talk. Because the professionals are liars, so they talk to you in a way where they're saying stuff to you that sounds nice, but they're lying. They're not telling you the truth.
Okay. Well, so I don't want to. Okay, so I want to separate. His normal candor or whatever. Yeah, he was different from that aspect, but there's definitely certain things that he said that was clear.
Did you watch Apprentice?
Okay, so I think.
Well, hold on, if you could. Did you watch the show Apprentice?
Yes, I watched the show Apprentice.
Okay, so tell me what Trump said that was how he spoke any differently when he was president than how he spoke when he was on that show Apprentice.
I don't think that's the point. I don't think that's the point.
I mean, he's been speaking that way for as long as we've known him.
Okay, but the point is, when you're trying to be a president, you conform to what a president is supposed to speak. The reason why he got listen. Let me finish. So the fact that he did not conform to what being presidential and speaking like a president, that's some of the reasons why he got slapped. So I agree. Listen, I agree that Trump got lambasted by the media. I'm just saying he was at least 40% responsible for a lot of the stuff because he gave them stuff to work with. He gave them material. Stuff that came out of his mouth weren't. If it was Obama, if it was anyone else, it weren't it being made into news clips or whatever the case may be. So I guess
that's not necessarily true either because
what are you talking about? Obama lie all the time.
Huh?
I mean,
Obama lie all the time.
But okay, I think we're missing the point. We're talking about the media coverage.
The point that I'm trying to make though is this: the reason why Trump got elected is because the American people, in large part, got tired of what was known as the typical presidential, stature. They were tired of the presidential talk, the presidential lies. They were tired of. They wanted someone that was going to be candid with them, that was actually going to talk to them in their language, something that they could understand. It wasn't going to bullshit them. Now let me finish. I let you finish. Let me finish, please. Secondly, 98%, well, I won't even say that. I'll say 80% of the shit they attacked him on, again, was all things that he did prior to his presidency after he was even elected. So So now as Americans, we're supposed to sit and say that a person isn't able to change. Someone isn't allowed to say that they feel a certain way 20 years ago, and 20 years later, they aren't allowed to grow and change the way they feel in their ideology. I mean, you and I can sit here and agree that even us, that our ideology has changed over the course of time. Correct? I mean, I'm sure you aren't the same man you were 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, because we all evolve as we start experiencing life. So why do we hold someone else to a different candle, and are we continuing to hold someone else to a different standard than we hold our own selves to?
I would say Trump was being held to the standard of being a president. I certainly hear what you guys are saying, that he was different. He spoke a different language. I hear you. Cool.
And
but okay, here's what
they wouldn't have voted it, right?
Here's what doesn't translate. When you sit up there and you call people SOBs or whatever the case would be, that does not translate. That's never in the book. Is that presidential kosher acceptable for a president to do that? So if you're a president and
There
you
were
call it,
SOBs.
they
were SOBs for not standing up for the flag.
Okay, well that's your I would say that's your
At
personal
least you
opinion.
use the
Okay, that's
agreement.
your personal opinion too.
But we would have to agree, despite your personal opinion, you don't call people SOBs. That's not presidential. So from that vantage point, that's something that was non-characteristic of a president, that warrant any type of vitriol from the public media. So this goes back to my point, is that Trump says things that are unbecoming of a president, that warranted certain things that came from the media. Yes, they were already, this is the liberal media. They were already going to attack him. They were already going to attack a Republican president. My thing is, he said and did things that were
And Biden didn't during his campaign.
Biden never called son of a bitch.
He didn't sit and tell Charlemagne, ask Charlemagne if he'd take a drug test.
So Biden
No. He also told Charlemagne that if he didn't vote for him, he weren't black enough.
Did he also not say if you don't vote Democrat, you're not black?
So Biden.
Did he not also sit and say that, you know,
I think we're
if it
changing.
wasn't for the hold on, did he not also sit and say that if it wasn't for the black woman working in Walmart, I wouldn't be able to sit in my basement? You know, did he not also sit and say that black kids?
He didn't want his kids growing up in a racial jungle. His son turned out to be a goddamn crackhead.
He didn't say that while he was campaigning. He said that during the 94 crime bill. But what he did say while he's campaigning is that black kids deserve to have the same education as rich kids or white kids. You know, I mean, he did nothing but make a bunch of racial slanders and racial slurs during his whole entire campaign trail over and over and over again. But yet, for some reason, most of the people that voted for him, which is majority, from what we're told, the minority community, seem to overlook all the racial slurs and racial slanders that he was constantly throwing left and right. How is that becoming of a president?
I think they were doing it in retaliation for the things that were by what Trump said about the Mexicans crossing the border. For example, he said they're not sending their best. They're sending the lowlifes, the criminals, the rapists.
Right.
The argument isn't whether why people do the things he did. That is Snowman specifically. Why is it that when one does the same thing, one gets judgment, but the other side does the same thing and they don't get judgment for it? Right. He's just pointing out the concept of how is that going to be a standard?
Yeah. So I totally reject that. Anyone that's been a president has called the American people as SOB. So you cannot say that.
That's not a bad word.
No, listen. Listen. I'm not finished.
How many videos do you want?
Listen. Who? Give me one.
Argentina's.
Let's see here. Clinton. Oh my God! Did she say some nasty things to the people? Of course, she thought that the camera wasn't on.
Give me example where a president cursed out constituent and referred them to a profanity. Give me an example.
Well, Lyndon B. Johnson said we get these N-words to vote Democrat for the rest of their life.
Okay, so you went all the way back to
well, why can't I mean?
You went back.
Hold on. I want to say
give you an example. That was a president, and that's unbecoming of a president.
Snowman. I'm gonna let you have the mic in 2 seconds. Okay. I want to say this real quickly. Was in every instance that I've either used or someone else has used an example of Lyndon B. Johnson, right, in these YouTube streets. Why is it every time the excuse is, why are we going back to Lyndon B. Johnson? Why are we going back to LBJ? Why is it when we go back to that time period, right, when you had the delineation between the blatantly racist left, right, and the, I would say, slightly less racist right, that's always a problem to reference back to that time. It's always, why are we going back to it? That doesn't matter. That was the past. Anytime that glaring time period, right, and the sins of that time period are brought to light, it's always an excuse to not talk about it.
But that's the easy answer.
Can you explain it?
But don't forget,
hold on. I want Calvin to answer, and then I'm going to yield the mic back to Snowman.
Because if we're talking about current events, current presidents, or whatever, and I'm asking about a specific example, if you have to reach back to a president that I don't know about when he was alive, or whatever, don't know any type of coverage on him, then I think that's a far reach.
Then why doesn't that same opinion apply when it comes to talking about?
Because I don't know. I don't know.
Calvin, you are so.
Why does that same opinion not apply when it comes to talking about racial matters? When people that are of the minority community always want to fall back to the sins of the past again and think that that's relevant to things that are today.
You're addressing me?
Hold on. Real quick. Blacks, you had 2 pages up. Which one is you? Is this you?
My bad, man. It's both me. What happened was I tried to come up and something happened. I had a glitch. And then I dropped down and then I hold on, let me turn my camera on. My bad. I'm in the dark.
It's J-rillo. It's his server. It's a server. It's racist. Every time somebody black comes up, the server itself just goes against it.
That's exactly right.
I have to go back again, though, so I go back to my question. Because what I find your answer to be disingenuous, because when it comes to people that generally look like you, Calvin, and we're having discussions when it comes to race relations, you always fall back to things of the past to make excuses for why things are the way they are today, rather than sticking with what's present and relevant.
Maybe it was relevant to the argument that's being had, but in this particular instance, I don't see what relevancy is.
Because you told me to give one example. Of anyone that was told me to give you an example of a president that used that kind of language that was unpresidential, and I gave you an example.
Okay, and you said, give me the president name again. Let's go reverse that.
Lyndon Baines Johnson.
Wait a minute. Hold on. Hey, I'm talking. I guess Mr. Snowman was giving me an example. Go ahead.
LBJ.
Lyndon Baines Johnson. LBJ. Lyndon Baines Johnson.
Okay, and what did he say? What words did he say?
Well, Blacks actually knows the quote better than me. And he can actually say it verbatim.
So
I can't say the word. So Blacks, what was it exactly that he said?
Well, of course you can say the word.
Let Blacks say
it won't be verbatim. I'll paraphrase. He basically said that if you get these niggers to vote Democrat, they'll never stop. And he said the word nigger. And he said this to aides. He said this to people on Capitol Hill. It was very public and everybody knew he said it. Lyndon Baines Johnson was colorful in his language. And so was Teddy Roosevelt. So was Andrew Jackson. We can run the gambit. Your criterion. I don't care. Your criterion for presidential means nothing. It doesn't. I don't know where you're getting this from. There's no book written. There's no rule. Period. You would think that Obama wasn't presidential when he decided to be the first president to use social media. It doesn't matter. There's always firsts. He was one of the firsts to do it the way he did it. It doesn't matter. And now he's given people carte blanche to do it a similar way, either worse or better. It doesn't matter. You can't say because he said SOB, you can't say because he made you feel a particular way that he wasn't presidential. That makes no sense. Feelings mean nothing. Did he break the law? Did he commit any sort of perjury? Did he kill someone? Okay. Did he embarrass the country like Biden's doing now? Or did he have these other countries paying their fair share, their due, actually paying their fair share, pulling us out of the Paris Accords, pulling us out of every stupid UN deal we were in that cost us billions, that we were fitting the bill for?
Telling the UN and NATO that they were going to have to actually start paying their fair share. You
okay, who do you think? Who do you think's army goes around the world when, quote, NATO goes in to do peacekeeping missions, unquote? Whose army is that? NATO doesn't have a standing army, so whose army is it? It's the American army, okay? Us, we, okay, with a few attaches from other countries. No one can do it the way we do it. We've earned it. We built it. The UN and every other system of government that you see out here, whether people like it or no. And the president,
if it wasn't for us. That's why the UN, in the UN office right here in America.
Yes, it's in New York.
Isn't that where the head office is? There's a reason for that.
Yes.
Because it's the safest place to put it. You can't, where else are you gonna put it? What other first world nation you're gonna put it where it won't be touched? America. Okay? And it's insane, man, to hear you speak about civility as if that's a criterion. That's insane. Because of what he said?
Where was the
Is that what grinds your gears?
Where was the civility when Obama dropped thousands upon thousands of bombs on Syria?
He's amazing. That's not presidential. Or maybe it is. Because that's what presidents do.
And he did that without articles of war being drawn up by Congress.
AKA he did it with impunity. Who was going to stop him? That's why when people tell me stupid crap like, oh, he said he's going to deploy hundreds of thousands of active duty soldiers on the border. That's illegal. Who's going to stop him? They quote law that they don't understand. Then when the other day, when the lawyer came up on the panel on CTs, shut them all down. Man, I don't know.
Ron was here earlier, by the way. He was here earlier.
Yes.
So.
Here's the thing. I don't know why you have such a bug up your behind for this man. It's always the same. There's no reason. You don't give a valid reason. We can give you valid reasons for Biden, and we've done so several times. We want to know why you hate Trump so much. What about him is an affront to your psyche or to you being alive? Because he was a media darling once upon a time, 80s, 90s, 2000s.
Well, look, Blacks, what I said earlier is I'm tired of people making me defend him because you and everyone knows that I've openly stated I don't like Trump.
Exactly.
And I've actually given legitimate reasons as to why I don't like Trump. Things that he said that he lied about.
And newsflash, Calvin, all of us are sick of having to defend him too, because none of us really truly are Trumpites. Nobody's like, oh, Trump can do no wrong. That's not the case. But I know a witch hunt when I see one. The man hasn't been in government long enough to have this witch hunt abounding.
4 years.
But my God, man. But we got a 50-year sycophantic fool, fraud, criminal,
child molesting kids,
child molester, money launderer, who can do no wrong in everybody else's eyes. I'm sorry, he's the quote lesser of two evils, unquote. But you just run down his resume and then you ask yourself, who's the lesser of what evil?
I mean, Trump's actually done more for the black community his entire life than Biden has ever done.
It's insane. Biden hasn't done anything. but he's locked. He's most likely locked somebody in your family up in the 80s, in the 90s.
Even Judge Joe
Can
Brown
I ask
had
a question?
Even Judge Joe Brown had to go on defense of the man, and I'm sure he didn't like it.
I'm a little curious. I'm not trying to side rail here. It just something just all of a sudden hit me. If we'd had the same conversation involving a rope and a tree, is that why this always kind of like this race thing keeps popping up? Because I swear to God, we didn't have this in the 90s. Where the fuck did this come from? Is this it? God damn it.
It is a concerted effort by the left to destroy this country.
Yep.
It's hyperbole. They don't care truly about this. It's just a mechanism through which they can try and depose. They can topple. That's it.
The reason why we didn't have 90s racism like we do now, it's all programming, and there were just a few guys. Me and Snowman were two of those people in high school that didn't have problems with race, and all of our friends didn't have problems with race. His school, his school, the only two schools in the United States that didn't have race problems in the 1890s. The only two, because I spoke out against racism and about supremacy and all the bullshit, and everybody believed me. I said the politicians are setting us up. All this is fucking lies. Don't believe any of it. They want us to kill each other. And
I supported O.J. Simpson, and I stood firm on that. So everybody knew that I was down.
We were all.
God damn, Snowman! Wow.
It was guilty.
But here's the thing. Here's I've just never seen it. I've never in my life been called a nigger by a white person in my life. I've been on several continents. I've lived in places where there were few black people and all white people. I've never to my face been called that by a white person.
There's very few black people that can say that, because almost everyone, look, blacks, just well as I do, you've heard me question people on my own panel, on CT's panels, on other panels. Tell me one time that you have had anybody do anything racist to you that was
man, they're lying.
Give me one example of this racism that you claim exists in America.
Dude, they're lying.
None of them can ever do it.
You know who's calling them out of their name? Their own people. You know who's robbing them and pistol whipping?
That's all I ever hear, too. That's all I ever
It's insane. I've never in my life. I went to school. I went to my freshman year. I went to school in Dubuque, Iowa. Okay.
My best friend in high school was blacks, and he was the only black kid other than his sister in a school of 400 white kids.
Okay, you know what I'm saying?
One of the most popular kids in school.
Dude, it's baffling to me the amount of racism these people say they endure, that they can't take it. My God, racism. I've never in my life seen it. It's insane. Oh, it's inherent. They're really thinking about it.
You know what it is? It's a slap in the face to the people that actually went through the shit and fought for you guys to be able to live.
It is a slap in the face. And I question Jim Crow. Honestly, I'm one of them people, man. I said it. I question Jim Crow all the doggone time because my father grew up in it. Okay. My grandparents grew up in it. My grandma was born in 1919. My grandfather was born in 1917. And then my father's father was born in 1900. Okay. And they somehow were able to avoid the lynch mobs. Okay. They didn't, I don't understand. You know what I'm saying? And then they didn't leave as children. They left as adults.
Well, dude, and then to top it off, you'd think that Jim Crow was all 50 states, and it was what, 10 states in the South?
Dude, don't even get me started. Don't even get me started. And then, listen, all I'm saying is this. The nonsense is real. They've tried to polarize people on this issue. because they know that people can't get past their illogical feelings. It's a mind worm that we can't dig out.
The biggest thing that blows my mind is the very same people that bitch and complain and moan and groan and always bring up the sins of the past are now wanting to go back and relive and have things the same way they were in the past.
But guess what, Angry Snowman? You can't bring up the pleasantries of the past. Case in point, Calvin just told you couldn't.
Well, that's why I asked, why is it all right for, people
Right.
that generally like him, that look like him, to sit and bring up the past when we start having these conversations to point out how horrible white people are. But when I actually use the past, because you asked me, give me an example of a president that did this shit, all I can do is go into the past.
That's all you can. So,
Guys,
go ahead. Go ahead.
As far as everyone loves to kind of default to slavery and stuff like that. I'm from Serbia, so you guys don't know.
Yeah.
The Serbs, everybody that was in Yugoslavia one time, we were all enslaved. That's where the word Slav comes from. Slavic.
Yes,
And we don't think about it. We could jump on and say, fucking Americans, they killed everybody in 1999, killed all my family, all that shit, and I should get money for that because you killed my grandparents. And that was in my lifetime, 1999. So I got a bazillion reasons not to live in the United States. I got a bazillion reasons not to serve in the military or do the right thing. I got a bazillion reasons to be a professional fucking criminal. Look at where I'm from. We create two things, mafia and chemists. That's what we do. Okay. So I don't default automatically to say, oh, I'm serving, so therefore I was oppressed slave. That was the 12th to 14th century. Okay. I live in a castle now. I'm not crying about fucking nothing that happened to my family back then.
Thank you.
And things to do that quite as good as Americans. Americans love to play the fucking victim. And they'll ride that snake until somebody fucking shakes them and said, hey, you were never oppressed. I was never oppressed. Now I've been kicked out of places. I've been now out into places, but I was terminated in the fucking 80s. So,
well, I mean, if you want to sit and bring up slavery, why don't we talk about the slaves that are actively being enslaved in Africa right now? Let's talk about the slaves actively being enslaved by China right now. Right now, let's talk about that shit. How come when we bring up the slaves in Africa that are actually enslaved this moment, all of a sudden all the black people don't give a shit because that's Africa and I live in America? But when we actually talk about racial issues, all you want to talk about is your ancestors being stolen from Africa and brought over here. But you want to overlook the fact that there's literally African people that are literally being enslaved this very second.
Actually, they sold them. They didn't steal them.
Because they are disingenuous, lying fucks. That's why. They will lie. You can bring up system after system, time after time throughout history where groups of people have had their entire lives upended, their entire lineages changed, their entire languages destroyed, and somehow they end up thriving.
Yeah,
the Philippines, for example, my God.
Well, truth of the matter is all of us, black and white, right now that live in this country, who have been here for more than 4 generations, we're so far removed from our past that we aren't African, we aren't European, we're American at this point. The only people that can actually say that are people like Gway or Professor or Jay.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
To sit and say that you're African or European or whatever, it's a lie. It's disingenuous, and you're trying to give yourself a platform you don't deserve to stand on.
And that's the problem we have now, Angry. We lack assimilation. Okay, you come here. Oh, sure, you can retain your identity, but then you have to take on a new portion of your identity, which is America. You don't come here because where you were living. Oh, that was your summer vacay. You came here because you wanted to be better. You wanted to have opportunity where you didn't.
What you talking about? Where my people came from was like going to Lake Tahoe, bro.
Obviously, right? You know, it's insane. People talk about Germans, right? You know, they talk about the German. The government gave them land grants, and they didn't have any money. I'm like, first of all, do you even know what class that was? Do you know the hardships they went through to get here? They couldn't even swim.
Well, and they always bring up the reparations to the Jews. You want to know who didn't pay those reparations? That Americans are not paying the Jews reparations.
You can't tell these idiots that. They won't listen. They'll find some presto facto way that we're doing it. Oh well, we helped to rebuild Germany, so therefore, we helped to rebuild Japan. So, you know, I'm telling you, man, they'll find some roundabout way to justify their rhetoric. It's all rhetoric, man.
And we did pay the Japanese reparations, but you want to know why?
Because we interned them.
Because we interned them, and it actually went to the people that were interned, or it went to their kids, not their great grandchildren.
And nope. and Koreans.
Go ahead. I just want to point out that the assimilation, fuck all y'all bastards. I'm Vietnamese. I'm gonna go in here and bang some pots and pans together, learn the language.
In my life, Joshua Jones. You got the whitest Vietnamese name ever on the planet, Joshua Jones.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start calling him Fran.
I want to wait 1 second, right? Like, we don't have the same problems you have in America, right? Over here, it's $2, me sucky sucky, love you long time.
Yeah,
over there, you better come with a Gucci bag.
Man, people will give their
even your trans over there honest. At least they call themselves lady boys.
People over there will give their left and right kidney to be actual Americans.
There's people lined up every day trying to get in this country. If this country was that bad, that wouldn't be the case. Everyone everywhere else wants to be.
That's a good idea. That's next time I hit the embassy, I need to actually take a couple pictures. Yeah, that's actually a really good idea. I think people need to see the fucking lines.
Yeah, dude. When I was in Korea,
the fucking front door. God, it pisses me off. Yep.
When I lived in Korea, it was the same way. And it wasn't just Koreans at the American embassy. It was Russians. It was Vietnamese. It was Filipinos. It was Africans, all standing there in the American consulate that was in Korea. All while I'm just trying to get my son's passport because he was born in Korea. You know what I mean? It's amazing how these people think.
Got dual citizenship?
He can. He's not Korean. He's American. He was just born there because I was stationed there.
I figured you have I got an ex-cousin-in-law that she was born in Germany, so she had dual citizenship.
Yes, he can have dual citizenship should he desire. And I told him go ahead and get that so I can move to Korea.
and with her, it was the same deal. She was born on an army base over in Germany.
Yep, that's him, man. So I was like, but the point that I'm making here is, you know, they talk about the immigration system being broken. And then Juan eloquently explained all the minutia that his immigration law, things that I didn't even know existed. Some I did because of the nature of my job. But other than that, the point that the major takeaway is the onus is on you. You come into this country. We are not obligated to give you citizenship. We're not obligated to expedite the process. You go through the process. And like he also put, it is a agreed upon treaty with how many countries are a part of the UN? I don't know the number. I never know the number. But
give me a second.
Yeah, all the countries, with the majority of the first and second world countries that are a part of the UN, they all agree on this same immigration law. And yet America is put on the world stage as the one whose immigration system is broken. It's insane.
193, by the way.
And not only that, if the treaty that you have with America, there's certain things you can violate. So, for instance, if you have a bunch of people going to your country to give visa to come to America, or if you're selling a lot of passport, then you should be selling or giving to the citizens that's in the country. They can actually stop you.
Yep.
So right now in Liberia, there's a hole. Nobody is coming to the U.S. So there's a hole because the president J-rillo that was in power actually went and sold the Liberian passport. He printed a load of them than he even needed, and sold them to people. And America is very cautious about having certain countries come in, because of all the terrorists and stuff like that, or like using different groups. So because of that, it put a pause. Even though Liberia has a treaty with America, but if you violate those treaties, they actually put a pause on your country and nobody can leave. So right now, there's nobody coming or going from the embassy in Liberia.
To come, yeah, exactly, to come to America.
Yeah,
and
to
that
come to America, yeah.
and that's another thing. It's loosely it loosely has to say again.
But Professor Mex just dropped off. I was thanking him for coming through. That's all.
Absolutely. Thank you. It loosely has to do with what you're saying. When they say America is the only place they can come to have a life, well, that's a lie. Man, if you only knew how many Africans I knew who lived in Korea, who lived in the Philippines, who lived in Vietnam, who lived in Guam. It was amazing. And and this is an aside. The sheer amount of languages they were able to pull out of their ass was amazing. I was over here struggling with Hangul. I'm speaking Korean, fly by night. And this dude, I couldn't get a phrase out. And then he just comes out of nowhere because we're both in the in the passport office out there. And he just starts speaking fluent Korean. I'm
Yeah,
like,
because
how long?
these countries, you have to learn the language. So
Yeah, but
like
I'm just saying, my point is, he just came out of nowhere and he had only been in country for like 6 months. I'm like, God. But the point that I'm making is, there was a lady I met who was there in Korea to study at Seoul University, and her country, Uganda, was paying for it, paying for her to come and get her education at Seoul University, okay, her bachelor's and her master's, so then she could, after doing that, go and work for the government in Uganda.
Yes.
I'm just saying, you get told this lie that America is the only way for foreigners. We have to come here because every other country won't let us in. It's a lie. It's a lie. They have plenty of treaties. I mean, if they have a treaty with us, they have treaties across the board, especially if they are governments that are in the UN. Okay, so that means they have not rights, but they have certain privileges to these countries that are in the UN, and they can go and come and go, especially if it's a student exchange program. So I don't know, man. These people, they make it seem as if we are insane for telling them to shut the hell up and live your life.
That's why Professor bounced off. He went into your chat to go to war with someone. Professor, you're in the wrong chat. That guy's over on J-rillo's chat. So I'll drop the link for his YouTube channel. That way you can go over in there. That's where that guy is you want to talk to.
He said he went to war.
That's what he's wanting to do. He wanted to go to war with him. You see, where'd that guy go? Why did they pick a fight and then leave? And he's talking about that Yuri dude. I know he is.
Probably because I saw him making a lot of choice comments in the chat.
Yeah.
When it comes around,
nobody cares about a bunch of drunks who had their nation. It wasn't stolen from them. It was conquered. It was conquered. And to be honest with you, you guys were genociding yourself way before we got here.
Real quick, Snowman, are you streaming tonight?
I don't know. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. I may
All right,
not.
Well, look, I'm approaching. Actually, I'm past the 9-hour, 15-minute mark. I was actually going to stop at the 8-hour mark at 11 o'clock, but the conversation was going really well. So listen, if you are streaming, then I would just suggest that everybody goes over to your channel, guys. It's the Angry Snowman 2. Make sure that you like and subscribe over there. Blacks, you want to plug your channel while you're at it?
Oh yes, it's been a while since I posted anything up there, but I'm starting to do it again because they demonetized me a while back for whatever reason. I know the reason, whatever. F YouTube. Hey, but yes, go over to Blacks Who Defy and come and listen to some of my logical points, illogical points, and whatever else it is on my mind that I feel like talking about. Thanks for giving me that room to plug my channel, sir.
If you want, you can drop your link in the chat if you want. That way, people have a
Make
chance.
sure when you go over to Blacks, just make sure to bring up the concept of how vagina is cheaper in every other country.
Exactly. All right, guys. Well, we're gonna do final thoughts.
Josh.
We're gonna go around and do final thoughts because I'm about to wrap it up. Snowman, if you're gonna stream, I'll make sure to send everybody over there if you want to drop your link in the chat.
Look, if people still want to have the conversation, I'll fire one up. But if they don't, if they're, if not, then I'm not going to waste my time.
I mean, I don't mind going over there and having a conversation. I just want to take a break for a little bit and actually get some super late dinner.
Right.
Yeah, I'm good.
For about 9 hours straight.
Whoever's doing it, let me know so I can go because I want to go.
All right. Well,
I just came up here to lambast Calvin, but go ahead.
Calvin's welcome to come over to my channel and get lambasted too.
Well, I was actually allowing you the vent session to continue. I never got a chance to grab the mic to respond.
Well, you know what, Calvin? What I'll do is I'll fire up a panel. That way you can.
No.
Dude, for real, I don't let people attack people. You can ask anybody that goes over there.
Yeah, and I didn't attack you. We just continued, but you didn't interject. You could have at any point.
No, I was letting you get your point. Your getting your points across, and then I was going to respond accordingly. I guess it's just you just kept going, and I guess I just let you vent because evidently what you had to say, you had it on your heart or whatever the case may be.
To be fair, Calvin, this is kind of like my fault. I was the white guy that brought in the whole rope and the tree thing, right? Like that's technically my fault, right? You can't trust these feds. They do all kinds of weird shit out here.
No, he and Mr. Snowman had I guess some issues that they need to get off their chest, and I guess they just felt this was the right time. Didn't really address much of what I had to say or the point I was trying to get across. But I'll go ahead and say my piece, and I'll and that'll be my piece for the night. In terms of Mr. Black Sudify, I guess I heard all you had to say. I respect all you have to say. I stand by my dislike from Trump. What I'll do for you and for everyone else, I will put my evidence together. And when it comes to you, I'm not going to speak to you in terms of rhetoric. I'm not going to go back and forth with you in that regards. I'm just going to speak to you with just hardcore facts. So the next time we have this discussion, it won't just be my words. It's just I'm just give you facts, and you can just debate the facts at that point in time. As for Mr. Snowman, the same for you in terms of what we talked about in terms of Trump's impeachment. As previously stated, I'll do my homework and I'll put together every bit of information that I have that proves how guilty Trump was in terms of what he did when it came to Ukraine. Now, what we were talking about before everyone went on their vent, I guess, session, I was basically talking about Donald Trump and his actions as a president and not be presidential. And the one example that you brought up was LBJ, and I'm sure Mr. Device, Mr. Snowman, thank you for coming up and helping him out with that, because clearly that didn't come from him. But when I look at him, he was president from 1963 to 1969. So that did the math, and that's like 60 years. So you had to go back 60 years to find a half example, which you didn't even give me what I was looking for, but you found what you thought you could use.
How is not?
Stop! I didn't. Listen.
The N-word presidential.
So, Jay, So Mr. Snowman, I didn't cut you off. I said and listened to you guys for 10, 15 minutes right off. I didn't
But you're
interrupt you.
lying and saying that I
Okay.
didn't give an example when I did. That was a clear
I
cut.
said a half example.
Oh my God.
I said half example.
The arbiter of truth, everybody.
I said show
Goodbye.
me show me where President cursed at. You didn't give me a
Thanks for coming
example
through,
where
Black.
you didn't give me an example where President cursed. So you
I don't
went
know. I think dropping the N bomb is even worse than cursing.
okay,
sir.
so you didn't give me what I asked you for. Okay, so that's 60 years, 60 or 55 years beyond our lifespan. So my point is, President
Hey, what's up?
Donald Trump.
Well, I've got a
Hey, Cyber.
recent example for you, Calvin.
No,
A recent example. You wanted a recent one, right?
no, thank you. Not
You don't? Okay, you know that I got one, and you don't want to hear it.
We can. I'll give you. I'll listen for it after I finish. And
Okay.
I'll make note.
Well,
So,
are you aware? Are you aware of the time Joe Biden called a room full of American soldiers bastards?
No. So
you're not?
No.
Well, now you are. You want to see a clip?
Okay, I'll look it up. I'll research it.
He's probably already got it ready in hand.
What he said was, "Clap for that, you stupid." He called them stupid bastards.
So to my point, you had
People
to go
who
back.
fight and die for our country were referred to as stupid bastards by Joe Biden.
Okay.
Thank you
So-
for your time.
You're welcome.
But I'm not even going to get into Tara Reid and how he grabbed her by the pussy, and Trump got in trouble for calling him out about it.
Okay.
Remember when Trump said that in the White House you can just walk up and grab him by the pussy? He was talking about Joe Biden and what Joe Biden did to Tara Reid.
Okay.
Your dissonance
so-
is astounding. Yeah, just ignore it. Just ignore it.
I'm not ignoring. I'll research it. Thanks for helping Snowman out. So to my point.
Oh, I'm not here to help Snowman out. I'm here trying to help you out. You have a hate. You have a hate. You have a hate problem, sir.
Can I have the mic? Please.
You have a hate
let
problem.
Calvin have the mic. Let him finish his point.
So you had to go back 56 years, well beyond.
Well,
any
I
number.
couldn't let him just throw that accusation that I came up to help Snowman. That's
Cyber-
disingenuous
No,
and a lie.
I get it.
Yeah, that's why I don't
man,
like talking to liars anyway. Bye.
Give me 1 second. Thanks for coming through, Cyber. Do you know Big Dre, Snowman?
I do.
Okay. Hey, Big Dre, welcome to the panel.
What's going on, fellas?
But Big Dre, we're
Thanks for
actually
coming
getting
through,
ready
boy. Appreciate you.
We're actually getting ready to move this over to my channel. I actually dropped the link for the StreamYard in the back chat. So when we end this, you just hit that link and you can go right over to the next stream.
All right, Snow, how you doing, man?
Not bad. How about yourself, sir? It's been a minute.
Hey, I'm doing okay, man. I'm here. Another rotation around the planet.
I know it. There's I put the link for the YouTube stream out in your chat, Jay.
No, you're good. You're good. Real quick.
Yeah.
Well, Snowman, hang back in the after the streams ends. Hang back in the StreamYard. Joshua, do you want to give your well, Calvin, are you done giving your final words, or
Yeah, that's
is there anything
basically. My point is, and still is, Trump he warranted the shade, the disrespect, the level of tension based on the actions that he took. And lastly, we never got back to the gentleman. I just want to bring up that Trump did break the train of people who supposedly were in ascension or whatever, which means that when you get out and vote or whatever the case may be, that your vote does count. So that was the last point I wanted to bring up. So yeah, that's it. Thanks, Jay. Thanks.
No problem, Calvin. Enjoy your night, bro. Thanks a lot for coming through.
You too. All right, peace.
Well, geez.
Go ahead, Josh.
My final thought's going to be all holy shit, right? So you got the asshole Fed comes up, throws a monkey wrench into the damn conversation, then later admits guilt, right? And the only fucking pushback I get is from angry Snowman. Are you fucking kidding me?
Hey, dude,
fuck all you bastards. I hate you, Snowman, for calling me out, but I mean,
the white on white crime is real.
Very real. Josh, is that all your is that all for you?
That's all I got.
That's all you
That's
got?
all I got.
Right, listen. Thanks for coming through, man. Make sure that you go over to Snowman's channel and keep the conversation going.
Yeah, actually, Josh said the StreamYard link's in the back, so if you want to just hit on it, anybody that was up here, if they just want to hit the link to the StreamYard, and I'll be over there as soon as we're done here.
Yeah, we're going over there. I'm looking forward to being put in the corner.
Did you say you sent it to my DM, Snowman?
Do what?
You sent it to my DM?
No, it's actually in the private chat right here. If you hit the private chat on this StreamYard, if you go into the private chat section, I got the StreamYard in there. The StreamYard link.
Okay, I'm having problems bringing that up. If you can, just send it to my DM.
I'll send it to your DM on Facebook. All right.
All right. Yeah, Jay, you have a very interesting panel here, man. I wanted to at least interact, but I guess I came too late.
Well, Jay will probably swing over to my stream here once he gets done eating and stuff.
Yeah, I just want to take a break. Yeah, because I've been on here for like about 9.5 hours straight now.
He's tired of running the show and he wants to pass the torch on to someone else, I guess.
I would like to actually. Yeah, I mean, I would like to take a break for at least a little bit. It is kind of draining being on a panel for this amount of time.
Yeah, I don't blame you, man.
I sent you the link, Ray.
If I could say a little bit here, this country is headed for this year. It's gonna be ugly, man. It's gonna be ugly. So I hope people are prepared for what's about to happen. Our economy is gonna crash. It's gonna be a lot of things. These fuckers are trying to put that biological agent back out here and kill off more people. The first one didn't kill enough. We're going to be facing a lot of shit with this mass immigration coming in. It's just going to be really, really crazy. Yeah. So I mean, I hope we're prepared for what's about to happen. People don't see it coming, but Biden really dropped the ball on this one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he screwed up. Yeah. All right, man. I wish I could have been able to elaborate a little bit more.
Oh, you're good, dude. Listen, I'll probably have another stream sometime this weekend. So by all means, definitely come by the show. If you're with Snowman, then you're probably good peoples, especially if you trust.
Oh yeah, that's my man, Snowman. That's my guy.
Yeah.
Definitely come by.
Dre knows me since the Trailer Hood days.
Yeah,
really?
Yeah.
Yes, he does, man. He goes back that far, dude. He's one of the OGs.
Wow.
Yeah, man.
He was around when I was caught when I caused all that problems. And what I do, I just leaned into it, started causing more.
Yeah. Well, people can't handle your honesty sometimes, man. And
I would rather someone be honest, wouldn't you?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I respect it all the way. I don't like phony kicking it, as they call it.
Right. There's enough of that phony shit, man, especially on these YouTube streets.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I sent you the link to your DM, Big Dre.
Okay. All right, I'm there.
All right, man. I'll be over there here as soon as we're done.
All right. Peace, everybody. Be safe.
You know it.
All right, see you, Big Dre.
Yeah.
Snowman, last but not least, what you got for me?
I'll be nice and I'll even cam up for you real quick, man.
What's up?
I said I'll even be nice and cam up for you real quick.
By all means, sir.
Face.
There you go.
My hair's all disheveled and shit. Here, let me put this on. It was actually a pretty decent conversation, you know how I feel about geopolitics and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I do come over specifically because I do learn a lot from you. You are a very well-versed gentleman when it comes to things outside of America, and you always make sure that you come with a lot of facts and a lot of receipts to back up whatever claims that you're trying to make, which is respectable. There's not enough people that'll do that, and you're a lot like me, whereas you'll even fact check yourself in real time.
Yeah, I mean, I was wrong on something, and I wanted to make sure because I didn't want to. I mean, if I'm going to bring the news, I better be right about it. So if I screw up, it's best to just fall on the sword right there and then. But I'm sorry, go ahead, man.
But my final thoughts is I'm for me, the reason why I'm on here now, and it's because I'm me personally, I'm tired of the double standard. I'm tired of the hypocrisy. I'm tired of the it's okay for me but not for thee mentality of specific groups of people here in America. And we saw it in real time tonight, in my opinion. You know, someone wanted to give me crap because I went back 60 years to prove the point that he wanted me to make, which the only way I could do that is to go back in time. You know, didn't tell me to, you know, give him an example of what Biden said. He told me to give him an example of another president. And I'm sorry, but I would believe that dropping the N-bomb is even worse than saying a swear word, in my opinion. And I think that most people respectfully would feel the same way, because I'm still allowed to say fuck, shit, piss, damn, motherfucker, but I'm not allowed to say ninja. You know what I'm saying? So I don't understand where this this half example was. I mean, that was as fair of an example you can give. You know, but the truth of the matter is if we're going to have these conversations and we're going to try and get somewhere to where we can meet eye to eye, we got to start being honest with ourselves first. If we can't be honest with ourselves, then we're never going to be honest with anybody else. And if you can't be honest with yourself to the point to where you can be honest with everyone else, then you have no business getting up on these discussion panels, because some of us are up here doing this to make it to try and make a difference, you know, to try and push back against the narrative and this rhetoric that's been put on all of us that live here in America, and to try and find some kind of common ground. We ain't got to agree on everything. You know what I'm saying? We ain't even got to see eye to eye. But the simple fact of the matter is we also need to learn how to disagree and do it in an amicable and civil way. Just because I disagree with you shouldn't make me an enemy, you know, and that's where we're at in America right now. We all know this, where if we disagree politically, ideologically, even sexually, now you're the enemy. And somehow this has got to stop. So, you know, that's my final thoughts on everything. You know, great show today, Jay. You know, as always, I hope that you got some more subs, because I had a lot of my guys come over here and sub your channel. So hopefully we got you a little close for that 200.
I appreciate that, Snowman. Thank you. Listen,
you're growing, man. You got great topics and great panels, bro. And you'll
appreciate
definitely
it.
see me over here more often now that I know you're doing it.
Oh yeah, listen. If you came through earlier in the stream, I did what I used to do back when I was streaming on your channel, and I try to half it up. I've been trying to add more U.S. politics and current event stories, and not just make it fully geopolitical. I have been trying to make it a more balanced blend, because I do know that people, you know, they want to know more about their country and know what's the happenings, sociopolitically speaking. People want to see that, you know, they want to know more about that. So I'm going to make it a point to be more balanced with my topics, so that way it's not so one-sided, and
Right.
people who aren't interested in geopolitics and may still be interested in local politics, and maybe I'll throw a little pop culture in there too. So I do want to get a really good mix, so that way everybody's covered as much as possible, and you know, it gives more of that infotainment kind of factor. You know what I mean?
Well, I like that you have opposing, you know, people that oppose the views, or you know, which I've gotten a few times. I wish I could get more of, but for some reason, people that, you know, disagree with with my ideology, for some reason they I don't know if they're scared or whatnot, but they don't want to come over and have the discussion.
Right.
You know, which I'm trying to prevent my channel from turning into an echo chamber. I mean, that's why I literally give everybody a wrench. That way they can fight in the chat and no one can silence anyone.
That's smart. That's actually really smart, actually. Yeah.
But, you know, and that, because to me, that's what this is about. We have been handed a real opportunity to be able to reach out to everyone across this country right here on this platform and have discussions with people that you would never have a discussion with otherwise. And why not utilize it to try and bring some kind of understanding and unification together, even if we're only unifying for the moment to fix the problem at hand and going back to our collective spaces afterwards.
I agree with you, Snowman. I do. I'm about to close it out. Just hang in the back for a bit before you start your stream up. Cool.
Hey, shout out to everybody that came through, man. I put the links to the StreamYard and the stream coming up after we leave here. So go ahead and go over there if you want to continue the discussion. And Happy New Year to everybody. And make sure you show J-rillo some love. Send him a couple cash apps for doing what he's doing. He's been on here for almost 10 hours, man. That deserves a little bit of monetary appreciation. And if anything, make sure that you at least hit that like button, and share this out. And come back after this ends, when the stream ends, and make sure you comment in the comment section, because that helps keep him in the algorithm. That helps more than anything else you can do. With that, I'm out, bro. Take it easy.
Appreciate you, Snowman. I'll see you, bro. Guys, this was a fantastic stream. I really appreciate everybody who came out, everyone who commented, everyone who showed up on panel, Snowman, Joshua, Gway, Calvin, Woody, King Shenard, Portia. Thank you so much, Rock, and anyone else I may have forgotten. Apologies if I'm fading out a little bit. It has been, it's nearly, we're keeping up on 10 hours here, so I would like to take a bit of a break. That way, I'll be able to go up over to Snowman's channel and keep the conversation rolling. Guys, be sure you head over to the Angry Snowman 2 channel. Snowman, please drop your link in the chat. Feel free to. That way people can go over there. They can hit the like and subscribe as well. This has been a fantastic stream. Thank you to everyone who showed up. Real quick, I want to send a shout out to, give my shout outs to, also thank you, Mayo Monkey, for coming on the panel. Appreciate you, bro. Haven't seen you in a minute. Thank you to Kaleidoscope Dreams. Thank you so much. Thank you, Portia. Thank you, NYC Majestic. And thank you, Rock. Appreciate you guys for the cash app. And thank you, Portia, again for the cash apps. You guys are awesome. I really appreciate it when you show love to the panel, show love to the channel by dropping a dono. That really helps a lot towards the laptop fund. Guys, I'm starting to lose my voice and need to take a break before I head on Snowman's channel. Thanks everybody who came through and showed love. Talking is hard. I will see you guys later. More than likely, I'll have a stream this weekend. I think I have a good panel lined up. I just got to get some particulars figured out and make sure that all parties involved are able to make it possible. Once again, guys, much love, much gratitude, and yeah, until next time.